That's a very popular song. Who wants to hear of it 50 times more? Hi, y'all.
I do.
I'm Forrest Valkai, and I'm your host today for SkepTalk, and I'm joined today by the lovely and charming godless engineer, John. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well.
I had
burned out,
I had
but
real work.
happy.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I had real work for the first time in 2 weeks today, so I had to get my ass up like 4:45 and get to work at 5:30 and work until 2:30, and I only had about a half-hour power nap. So I'm stoked.
Yep.
I'm ready.
That sounds excellent. I want to remind everybody really quick before we start the show, a couple of things. Number one is that this is a call-in show. It's a show for you, the audience, to participate in, provided you disagree with us. If you are a theist, if you believe in a god or gods, if you believe in angels or demons or devils or spirits or ghosts, if you believe in creationism, if you believe that the earth is 6,000 to 10,000 years old, if you don't believe in vaccines or the globe earth model, or if you have questions about LGBT people and their place in the world, or any of the other things that are like weird hot button issues in science and skepticism and theology and whatnot. That's what we're here for. John and I are professional atheists, professional skeptics, professionally here to professional all over you. All you have to do is call in. Number on the bottom of the screen there is 720-619-2288, or use the web link down in the description to call in over them internets, and we would love to talk to you. We're as nice as you are, generally speaking. As long as you're willing to answer questions and follow along with us and be honest with your concepts and what you believe and why, we're gonna have a pleasant talk. It's gonna be real productive. And who knows? You might just change our minds. You might just convince us that this God is a real guy, and you might save thousands of souls if you can give us a good reason to believe in this thing. We just haven't heard one yet in years and years and years of doing this show. John, what are you saying? You look like you had a thing to pop in.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say I'm an asshole, and Forrest is nice. Just by the way, so I'll try to taper my asshole as much as I can.
Keep John's asshole in check by calling that number on the bottom of the screen, 720-619-2288. Also, as this is SkepTalk, I believe we are going to read super chats as well. I get all the shows mixed up in my head, but we'll do super chats at the end of the show as well. So if you have a thing to say and you want to spend a couple of bucks to say it, then pop in a super chat down there in the chat, and we will read them at the end of the show. Go through, answer your questions, talk about your comments, your concerns. If you have any specific greetings or whatever like that you'd like to pass around, this is your chance to do that as well. And with that, we already have one theist on the line and one atheist as well. We do prioritize theist callers. So atheist caller, you may be waiting for just a little bit. And by that, I mean hours and hours and hours. But I'm going to jump right in. Are you? What do you think?
Oh yeah, I'm good to jump right on in. Bring on the God believers.
Chicken. Let's talk to Adrian. Who says, and this is just what it has listed here, God is real and he speaks to me. Adrian, pronouns he, him. What's going on? I'm Forrest. This is John. Welcome to SkepTalk.
Hey, Forrest. Hey, John. You there?
Hello. We are here.
Hi, yeah.
Yeah. How you doing today?
Doing pretty good.
Never had a bad day in my life.
I'll tell you what, I live here in Texas, and the weather is about as beautiful as you could ever imagine.
I don't know. I can imagine really
Sweet
nice
chicken.
weather. Like I've been in Hawaii, and that's been about as nice weather as I've ever seen. So,
well, I'm a little bit jealous. I've never been to Hawaii.
Not
all
yet.
over
Not
the
yet.
country, though.
Except for there.
Only
So
time
what's going on?
Country was go to Amsterdam,
Yeah.
and I had a real good time there too.
You say God is real and that he speaks to you. What, let's just start there. Like,
well,
what God are you talking
when
about?
I was 19, showed me the apocalypse.
Which God?
Well, the only one that I know.
Allah.
Well, I
Zeus.
call him Abba, but
Abba?
that's just between me and him.
Oh wait, are we
Abba?
talking about the 1970s like pop band? Were they pop?
I think that's what it is.
Can you believe
Yeah.
they said that they did the same name? It's when Jesus was on the cross. He said, "Abba, why hast thou forsaken me?"
No,
Uh-huh.
I don't know why God told me to call him Abba, but he did, so I do.
Well,
So-
no, hold on. So that's actually that's actually what is the language that they were speaking? Coptic or something like that. It's he said like Abba, Father, why have you forsaken me? In like a different language than Greek. I can't remember. I can't remember what it.
Language. You've got a lot more education than I do on it.
So there's a God. It's presumably the God of the Bible is what I'm picking up from context clues here. And he wrote Dancing Queen.
That's just how
and
he
now
looked to me. That's what he.
Right. And so like what I'm trying to understand is like you had this experience where this God appeared before you. I'm trying to understand what God it is, so I know what we're talking about, because there's just millions of gods on offer. So like it sounds like you're talking about the God of the Bible. You talked about Jesus and all these things. So it sounds like that's what we're going for.
Yes, sir. That would be the God of the Bible.
Right. So
although
this
that
God
book
appears
is
to you,
very difficult.
What did it look like?
Well, he's a male character, and he looked basically just like I don't know. You know, Michelangelo painted a picture on the ceiling somewhere.
Right. Well, right. So you're telling me, hold on. So you're telling me that you have a preconceived notion of what Yahweh looks like, and so when you saw God, your preconceived notion of what Yahweh looks like appeared to you in a hallucinatory sort of vision to talk to you and tell you things that you already believed, right? Or did this Yahweh character tell you things that you didn't already believe?
Well, the first thing he said to me was, "I love you." Then the next thing,
yeah, because you're a man. Well, yeah, you're a man. If you were a woman, he would have said, "Hey, bitch, you're property." Like that's what he would have said.
It would have been a very different conversation.
Let's laugh about women being property. Yeah.
What is this call? I don't know about that.
Oh, I do, because I've read the Bible. Have you read the Bible?
Funny as all hell, but
sorry, Adrian, have you read the Bible?
Yes, sir.
You
What's
have?
That again?
Then you know that God directly says that women are property in the 10th commandment in Exodus, right? Like you understand that, right?
That's one of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Now, that book, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't believe one damn word out of it. I mean, if you take that thing and take it apart, it has got to be some kind of is it appropriate for me to curse?
Sure.
That book is some kind of fucked up, guys. Ain't no question in my mind. Now, the dear Lord, he came to me and he told me that I was Adam. He said the first will be last, the last will be first. Now, he didn't say that. There was angels that said that.
You just said he said that.
What's that again?
Adrian, it sounds like we're on different pages here, because like you're giving us this story and you're saying things that just don't line up to me. You just said God came to you and said, "I'm Adam, and the last will be first, and the first will be last." But he didn't say that. It was angels that said that, which is, You just said he said that, and none of that addresses what I was trying to ask earlier. I was just asking what does the guy look like? What's his hair color, eye color, skin color? How tall is he? Does he have a beard? Like, is he buff? Is he what's the dude look like? And the best you gave me was, well, it looked like the Michelangelo painting in the Sistine Chapel, which, as John rightly pointed out, is a preconceived picture that you have in your brain. And now this God is telling you things that you already believed the God was going to tell you. And you said, well, he told me something different that I didn't expect. And you never elaborated on what that was. And now we agree that it is the God of the Bible, but not from the actual Bible, because the actual Bible is not right. And you reference Jesus and the things that Jesus said in the Bible just before saying that you wouldn't believe a word out of the Bible. So I don't think like we're on the same page with this conversation. I would like to try to like synthesize the entire story, because it's we're going on 10 minutes now, and I feel like we've gotten nowhere.
Well, I certainly do apologize for that. Let's see here. How can I make it easier for you to understand? I was 19 years old.
Can I ask you a couple questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is the Bible representative of your theology or of your God?
Not directly, no.
Not directly.
Bible,
so like indirectly, or it's a ricochet shot.
It's so old, and there's so many stories. They're stories.
Okay. Adrian. If I can cut through. Hold on, if I can cut through this, yes, what it seems to me, tell me if I'm wrong. What it seems to me is that you have this preconceived notion of what your God is like, and what theology that your God adheres to, and sort of describes your God. And you've just made this up on your own. And so you've effectively made up your own version of Yahweh through either cherry picking parts of the Bible that you like, or cherry picking it and creating your own kind of theology. You've just sort of made up your own kind of God. Would this be accurate to your theology of your chosen Yahweh?
Yeah, I believe that is what everyone here should do. Cool. I mean,
why? Let me ask you, Adrian. So now that you've affirmed that, why should we give a fuck? Like, what? Why? Sorry, I don't mean to be too crass or abrasive, but why should we care about your made-up version of God?
I believe my point is that you shouldn't. That it's our responsibility, every human being, to make our own judgments, to make our own choices. There's a reason why God has not made himself known. It's because he doesn't need to. He doesn't want to. Why?
Well, yeah, but I'm sorry, that contradicts something that you said, because apparently, Adrian,
yes.
Adrian, he's very obviously made himself known to you. Why doesn't he do that to everybody? Like, why can't he just do like a broadcast message to everybody in the world at the exact same time and let everybody know? I mean, obviously you're important enough. Why are you important enough to make himself known to you?
What was your name again, sir? I'm sorry.
I'm John.
John. What would that accomplish, John? I mean,
what did it accomplish for him to speak directly to you?
Yeah, but it's the end of time. It's the apocalypse. He said to me, the time for me to be known has come. Now, why
except it's not.
Only for fucking Adrian.
Right. Adrian, do you believe in hell?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And do you believe that people go to hell if they don't believe in this God?
I wouldn't believe in hell if I hadn't seen it.
Do you believe that people go to hell if they don't believe in this God?
Not necessarily like that, no.
Okay, so is it works or acts, or is it works or faith that gets you into heaven? Which one?
I just don't think it's that simple. It isn't that simple.
So are John and I going to go to hell because we don't believe in this God and we are rallying against this God? We are encouraging people not to believe in this God. Does that put us at risk of a hell?
No, sir. I would never say something like that.
Okay. So then what is the point if this God said to you that the apocalypse is upon us and the time for him to be known is now, then what difference does it make whether or not people know him? And also, again, that contradicts a couple of the other things you said, but whatever, we're just going to roll with it for a second. Why does this God want to be known if it doesn't matter whether or not we know it?
It's not that it doesn't matter if you know him or not. It is a matter of character. And
what changes if I know this God? What does knowing this God do for me?
The thing about it is, you already know him. Most people don't realize it, though. I mean,
I don't. I assure you I don't.
The thing about it is, it comes down to love.
That doesn't answer my question. I asked you, what does knowing this God do for me? What would change if I knew this God for me?
If you're a good person, absolutely nothing.
Okay, so then this God is useless to me.
Yeah, it seems like it doesn't matter whether or not we know God or not. Like, we can be good people without knowing this God, right? So what benefit is there for us to believe in this God or to acknowledge his existence or to follow whatever he teaches? Also, how would we know what he teaches?
That's my whole point. You know, everybody wants to fight and argue, and what does that produce? I mean, the fact is, we're all here. We're all living together. We all share this planet. We all breathe.
You're just preaching
to
us at this point. Is this God all powerful or not?
As far as I know, yeah, he created not only this universe.
Okay. But, is this God all knowing or not?
That's complicated. As far as my conversations with him, there's been times that I ask him a question, like I asked him what date it was, and he had to ask the angels. So, yeah, I mean, in a way, he is, because
does this God know what's going on in the world?
Oh, absolutely. He knows every pebble that...
Then this God is not worthy of my worship or attention. Because if this God knows what's going on in this world and is all powerful and isn't using his power to fix this world and to save people's lives and to protect people, then I'm not concerned whether or not this God thinks I'm a good person. I know I'm a better person than this God. And whether or not this God exists is irrelevant to me because I want nothing to do with it anyway. What benefit does this God provide if it is this useless?
Well, it's the kind of thing where you don't know what you have until it's gone.
What I have is a world where 24,000 people starve to death every day. There's an active genocide going on in Palestine. millions of homeless people, millions of people dying of thirst, rape,
Would you
incest,
remind me your
murder
name again, please,
through the roof.
Would you remind
Sorry?
me your name, please?
My name is Forrest.
Forrest. Thank you for talking with me, Forrest. Now, the thing about it is, without God, you wouldn't know that these things are even wrong.
That's bullshit. How dare you insult me this way? I've been nothing but polite to you.
Well, I didn't mean to be insulting.
I know very well what is right and wrong because I am a decent person with a well-rounded morality, and I work hard to understand other people's perspectives and to listen to them and to learn from them and to shape my worldview based around what is best for all of humanity. I know all on my own whether or not it's good or bad to hurt someone, rape someone, murder someone, genocide, famine, war, all these things. I am able to judge myself. Your God is incapable of fixing these things. If I had the power of this God, I would fix these things. I would protect children from pedophiles. Your God does not.
Well, it might not be on your timeline, Forrest, but he is.
John, you're muted.
I'm muted?
No, I'm muted. I was wanting to ask you a question there, Adrian. Earlier you said that we don't need God in order to know, in order to be good people. I would think that part of being a good person is being able to recognize those things as right and wrong, starvation and rape and all that kind of stuff. Being able to identify those things as being good, bad, right, or wrong would be an integral part of being a good person. And you said earlier, hey, you don't need to believe in my God in order to be a good person. But now you're saying that the only way that we can know that these things are right or wrong or neutral is to believe in your God, or that your God is the only reason why we can know those things.
We learned them over. That's the reason why I described the Bible the way I did. We learned them over, God knows, and it seems like we still have.
I'm sorry, Adrian, but when? No, I can't let you go on. When exactly? Was it during the time when God or Yahweh was telling the Israelites to go and murder an entire group of people and steal the young virgin girls? Is that when? Or maybe it was during the medieval times when God was speaking directly to the Roman Catholics and telling them to go and conquer all of the quote-unquote savages of the world and bring God to them then, where they would continue to rape and pillage and destroy those cultures. Is that when exactly did this enlightenment come?
It's a progression.
I don't see a fucking progression, Adrian. I'm sorry, Adrian. I don't see a progression. During biblical times, God was saying, "Hey, go rape and pillage these people." In medieval times, it was, "Hey, go rape and pillage these people." Up until 1865, it was, "Hey, go and enslave these people." At least here in America. And then after that point, "Hey, go and segregate these people, treat these people as less than human," and all the way up until now, where there's still people that think that you should treat minorities and other marginalized groups as less than human. When does the progression start? When is the progressive God going to actually speak up for those that are the most marginalized and targeted in human history? When is that going to happen? Because I don't see it fucking happening. Do you think it's happened because it hasn't fucking happened to you? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay, then when does it happen? When's the progress happening? Because at every point in human history, when there has been progress on human dignity, on treating people with equity and all that, that's always been a human led progression. It's not been God led. It's not been led by like Christians or other religious people. It's always been by people that have worked against the grain of the religious norm at the time to push society forward. So exactly when and where has this progression happened, and how do you know that it happened?
you put it in those kinds of words? I suppose I don't, do I?
Those words are just being honest. It's not like we're rallying against your God because we just don't like the guy. I'm very happy to say that there's no reason to believe this God exists. Because if such a God exists that watches over this world in all the suffering and misery that goes on every single day and is like, yep, that's how I need it. I'll fix it on my timeline. While 24,000 people starve to death every single day, 10,000 of them being children every single day. And he says on his timeline, he'll get around to doing it when he feels like it. That God is either wicked, stupid, useless, or just plain fucking evil.
Well, let's see here. Now, if you can paint things in that color, and that's fine by me, because believe me, I was one that was raped. I was one that was tortured. I have experienced murder. I know how horrible this world can be, but it doesn't change the fact that we are all here living together, sharing each other's air.
And we are doing so by our grace and our virtue and our strength, not God's. Every bit of progress that we have made to ameliorate the human condition and to make this world livable and to fight for each other and to fix rights for each other and to provide for each other has been on each other's backs. We have done it for ourselves, by ourselves, totally without this God this entire time. That's what John was just telling you a minute ago. This God is either useless or evil, Adrian. Either way, I'm very glad there's no reason to think that it exists. Let me ask you a question. You mentioned earlier on that God will do things in his own time. Do you think that God has a plan?
Well, yes, he does.
Do you think that anything happens that goes against God's plan?
Theoretically, no.
Do you think that God's plan is ultimately good?
Yeah.
Then why do you lament and make excuses for all of the things that we brought up today? Why do you lament rape, torture, murder, genocide, all these things, and say, well, I guess that's a bad way to frame it? Why aren't you honest about the fact that you like those things? If God has a plan, and that plan involves all the suffering around the world today, and the plan is ultimately good, then at the end of the day, all those evil things are actually good things because they're a part of the good plan. So why aren't you honest about that and say that you are very happy that all these children are being raped, very happy that all these people are starving to death, very happy about all the genocide around the world, very happy for the dark history of every civilization, especially here in the West? Why aren't you talking about that? Why are you making apologetics for it?
I am not. And
so you're not happy about God's plan?
What you're saying is not God's plan.
You just said that nothing happens that goes against his plan. God's in control of everything, right? God knows every pebble on the ground, right? That's what you said a minute ago. So God knows every bit of pain and suffering in this world and chooses not to stop it because it is part of the goal. The ends justify the means. If I tell you that I'm going to raise $100 for charity, that's a good goal. And then if I say I'm going to do it by stabbing everybody that I see with any money until I get enough money to give to the charity, you would say The goal isn't worth it. That's a stupid thing to do. Don't ever do that. That's terrible, right? But here you are saying that God's plan is ultimately a good thing. Nothing's out of his control. He knows everything that's going on in the world. He's all powerful, could do anything that he wants to do, could make a universe where his same plan is achieved without children being raped, but didn't make that world. He made this world instead. And so this is clearly part of the plan. This is all on the agenda. And you support the plan, or do you not?
I don't think that it is possible for a human being to even conceive the plan of God.
Worthless, absolutely worthless argument, Adrian. It's all just too complicated. You don't understand why these children have to be raped. You're too dumb. It's if you were smart enough, you'd understand. This is all part of it. And then you have the fucking nerve to tell me that I wouldn't know what good and wrong is without this God's help?
I dare not. No, sir.
You did.
I would never tell someone that.
You said that in this conversation. See, that's the thing that's so frustrating about this call, Adrian. We've been on here for 27 minutes, and you have not said a single thing that you have not also contradicted. You are inconsistent, contradictory, clearly just doing apologetics for your own ego and comfort, not for logic and reasoning. You do not hold this God under the same scrutiny that you would hold anything else, and you have the fucking nerve to tell John and I that we need this God to understand good and evil, but also we can be good without him, but also his plan is good even when it involves genocide. Fuck your God and fuck your religion, sir.
Well, there's not a lot to say after that, is there?
I would hope not, except for maybe an apology would be nice, but that'd be about it.
I can offer up a very, very, very sincere apology to both of you, sirs. I never intended on having any kind of controversy. I struggle with my relationship with God. Every day, I look at this world and I look at the things that are happening, and I beg to be a better human being.
You can do it easily. You can do it easily. Drop this evil God. Next time you talk to him, ask him why he's such a piece of shit, and then be rid of him. Be free of this evil monster that tells you that the plan is worth this. John, what were you saying?
Well, I was just going to ask him, like, what if God, like, I don't understand the connection between God's plan and what's happening in reality. Like, maybe I'm grasping at straws here, but I feel like, you know, you saying that nothing can contradict God's plan is somehow like, how do you explain like all the things that we've mentioned, like child rape that happens at the hands of God's priests and pastors? How do you explain starvation? How do you explain those things in light of your particular God existing and your particular God having a plan and nothing being able to go against God's plan?
It's outrageous. I can't.
That's not an answer.
I mean, you guys ask questions that even Christ couldn't answer, and I mean,
must not have been a very good guy then.
Well,
yeah, he must not have been all knowing.
Yeah,
right.
Nor all good.
About it is,
and is God all knowing?
If you really want to know, the thing about it is, I believe that God put us here, and he did not make himself known because he wanted to give us freedom. Now, what we did with that freedom, that's not a very pretty picture. I will have to say that.
Does Satan know that God is real?
Satan?
Yep.
I don't know anything about Satan.
Do you believe that Satan exists?
I would, yeah, maybe, probably. I've never
Does
seen
he know
him.
that God is real?
I never talked to him. I talked
Does
to
he
God.
know
I
that
talked
God
to
is real?
Jesus, I talked to angels. But
Does
I never
he know
talked
that
to
God is
Satan.
real?
Well, because I talked to him. I saw him.
Does Satan know that God is real?
Well, sir, I don't know Satan. I never seen Satan. I never
I'm not
talked to
asking
Satan.
if you
I've
know
seen
Satan or have
hell.
seen Satan. If God is real and God created Satan and Satan rebelled against God, then it's logical to assume that Satan knows who he rebelled against, right?
Yeah, but that's all beyond what I don't. I'm sorry,
It's
man. But
basic logic is beyond
my
your
pay
comprehension at this moment.
That's beyond my pay grade.
I have never met the president.
I have met and talked to God. I have met and talked to Jesus. I have met
I
and
have never
talked with
met the
angels.
president, and I have never met the Prime Minister of Canada. I know those people have met each other, and I know that they know each other exist. You don't have to meet someone to put together logical puzzle pieces. If Satan rebelled against God, and Satan in the Bible, whether you believe this part or not is important, Satan in the Bible talks directly to God several times.
I'm still getting to know you guys' voices. Am I talking with Forrest?
Yes.
Forrest, I don't know. I wouldn't say. That's not something that, I know that hell exists because I've seen it. But I don't know anything. I didn't call to talk about things that I didn't see. I saw God. I saw Christ. I saw angels. I saw heaven.
Okay. But you understand that what we want to know is evidence that could confirm, outside of your experience, that these things are real. How if I told you that I saw a unicorn, a pink invisible unicorn that came to me and told me that I needed to believe in that pink unicorn, otherwise I'm going to burn in the eternal pink flames of hell, would you believe me?
No.
Okay, you can understand why we're not believing you. Yeah, it's a good question. Why would you not believe me?
I choose not to. Intelligence tells me.
But you'll burn in the pink flames of hell. You'll be forced to do cabaret for eternity.
Is it Mike? Is it Forrest and Mike?
Yes.
Mike? I am Mike now. Morgan.
No,
my name is Mike.
Damn it. Now, don't get me started on this. I'm just trying to be polite.
I mean, we've been trying to be polite this entire time when we've had this conversation, but you keep jumping around like it's a fucking platformer like Super Mario Brothers. So, I mean, we're thoroughly confused about what your theology is.
That is exactly how it looked to me. Everywhere
we're asking you direct questions about your beliefs, and we're judging them based on basic concepts of morality, logic, critical thinking, and you keep giving us contradictory stories about your own experiences and your own beliefs. How are we jumping around? We are only addressing what you're bringing up.
Well, I didn't ever bring up Satan.
Yeah, I was trying to ask you a straightforward question about the concept of free will, and you gave me the laziest excuse imaginable.
You didn't
I've
say
never met
anything
the
about
guy.
free will. Now,
You did.
Forrest, you did not say anything about free will. I will tell you all about
you
free will.
did.
You
Adrian,
said something about free will.
You said something
Damn.
about free will, and I was trying to ask you questions about it, and you gave me the same lazy answers that you've been giving me for everything else. I tell you, man, it's been 36 minutes, and all I know out of this conversation is you think you saw some magical shit. That's what I've got. That's all I've learned about this entire situation. Is you think you saw some magical shit, and you have a fucked up sense of morality centered around a dogma that makes no fucking internally consistent sense. So, like, I don't understand how this is supposed to, like, help anybody. But by your own admission, it won't. So I don't know why we're wasting any further time. Your God's a monster. It sucks that you worship it. And I don't understand why you believe in it. I think we're good to move on. Yep. John, do you have anything else for Adrian before we do?
Fuck no.
Yeah, Adrian, this sucks, dude. Please, like, call back in if you want sometime, but please have, like, just take a minute to observe your own beliefs and see if they align with themselves, let alone our questions, and maybe we can go from there.
Yeah, I really appreciate the conversation, you guys, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Most definitely. Take care. Just fuck, man. Fuck.
I am now Mike.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in to the Forrest and Mike show. Fucking, yeah, so fucking rough. It just kept going. And like every time I thought we were getting close to like just a straightforward, honest answer, it was just more contradictory, lazy thinking of just like, well, I mean, like, I guess this makes me feel good, so I guess this is what it is.
Yeah, he kept ripping a good conversation away from us.
Yeah, it was rough. We've got lines open. We've still got a couple of we have some people who are waiting. Two atheists who are waiting on the line right now. So we're going to talk to them here in a second. But theists, the show is for you. As you see, we'll give you time. We gave Adrian, that was, I think, a 36-minute phone call, which was about 35 minutes longer than I think it probably should have gone. And we listened to everything he had to say. We were very honest about what we thought about his beliefs. We gave him a good platform. And these shows on average get about 20 to 30 or 40,000 views. There's a lot of people listening. If Adrian had said anything coherent, somebody might have paid attention. So if you think that you have a better argument for this God that you believe in, whatever God it may be, or whatever version of the Bible you believe in, because there's about 40,000 different versions or denominations of Christianity, I guarantee any way you think that John or I may have mischaracterized God or Jesus or the Bible, we have talked to somebody who believes those things, so you can call and present yours as well. Whatever it is, numbers on the bottom of the screen, 720-619-2288. Otherwise, it's going to be a short show tonight, and we'll just do these last little two. And we'll go with it. David Cutter, call in. Don't just complain in the comments. Pick up the phone. 720-619-2288. Tell me what your issues are. Same thing to the other person. I think we had to mute somebody else as well. Y'all, the chat is not there for debate. It's just for participation and discussion. But they don't want to, there's people in the chat don't want to hear it. There's a phone number on the bottom of the screen. Why sit in the chat and bitch about what you do or don't like about the show, about the hosts, about the calls, about the whatever, about the format, or spread your gospel? Why proselytize in the chat when you could just pick up the phone? Tell everybody. Get on the stage. That's the whole thing. Get out of the comments. Get on the stage. Let's talk to Kenneth. let's talk to Kenneth. We got Kenneth, pronouns he, him, calling in from clicking Alabamans. People from Alabama just clicking like I don't know. Like I guess that's snapping. I don't know why.
I feel like that's corrected.
It's very strange. They're like arthropods. They're just making like sounds. You know what I mean? I don't know. Kenneth wants to know: is it possible that theism might be good for certain people? Kenneth, welcome to the SkepTalk. I almost said the Sunday show. Welcome to SkepTalk with John and Forrest. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Valkai and Mike, how are you today?
Nice.
I'm
good.
So what's your question specifically?
Thank you for... yes. So I listened to the show, and I've called it once before. But my question is that, I feel like there are some people in this world, they're typically of a certain kind of... They have a certain kind of mindset, or maybe like insecurities, or... there's just a certain group of people I feel like maybe for them to kind of walk a different path in life, maybe they're going down the wrong path, that maybe the traditional kind of therapy and things like that might not work for them, and that perhaps only certain types of theism could kind of help them, I guess, change the way of life. And I don't necessarily think that maybe theism is harmful, because I know that's maybe the stance for some of these people or some of the hosts are on the show. I just kind of want to know what you think about that, because I run a store here in Davis, California, and I get all sorts of people that come into the store, and I just kind of want to know what your thoughts are on that. If theism in any case could be like the only way to get people to not be bad, I
guess. John, do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
I mean, I can start. I mean, as somebody who's currently in secular therapy, and I've been diagnosed with clinical depression since about 2015. The best analogy that I've always given has been, have you ever seen the movie Big Daddy?
Big Daddy? No, I don't believe I have. It's an older movie. It sounds familiar, but no.
Oh man, older movie makes me feel so old. It's an Adam Sandler movie from the 2000s, I believe. Anyways, in the movie, he's taking care of a kid that's not his own, and he doesn't know how to take care of a kid. So he feeds the kid a whole bunch of sugar, and then he allows the kid to I
remember.
Frankenstein. He allows the kid to jump around all over the place and everything like that. He jumps everywhere, and then obviously he gets really worked up, and then he vomits all over the place. And what does Adam Sandler do? He takes newspaper and he just covers the vomit. And I feel like using religion and God, Jesus, and all that in order to be more mentally healthy is a lot like Adam Sandler covering the vomit with newspaper, because I feel like it's just used to mask your real problems, and it's a way that maybe you can use it in order to get more mentally healthy, but I feel like it's really just masking the issues. And so I feel like moving past religion and actually dealing with the issues that you have is a better solution than using God. And so I like, regardless of how successful deluding yourself with God is, I still think that true scientifically based and evidentially based therapies can help you vastly more and for the longer term, and be more mentally healthy in general than using God to cover it up.
But wouldn't like things such as therapy and maybe support groups, if you don't have a family, something that one would have to voluntarily just kind of go to and be open-minded and willing to? I'm talking more about certain types of people who are just like maybe hardened criminal, like they just don't want to submit to anything, and they think therapy groups are for like snowflakes and things like that, but they would be willing to submit to a higher power that
right,
such as God and things like that.
Sorry, I'm gonna let Forrest go here in a second, but if you think that you need God, or that these people need God in order to be more to be able to integrate better into society, I'll just have you look at the Catholic Church. I mean, there's plenty of criminals in that organization that you could label it as a criminal organization with how they circulate pedophiles and all this other stuff. So, I mean, like, the proclivity of religious people to continue to be criminals and to do criminal things while at the same time excusing their bad and criminal behavior because they think that God somehow condones it or something like that, because they've manufactured this in their mind. I think that the proclivity of people to do that outweighs like whatever kind of benefit that you could see for the random outliers out there that are able to correct their behavior using God. I don't know. I still feel like a more secular reason, or a more secular therapy, whatever that, in whatever form the therapy comes, I think that would be vastly better than deluding yourself with a religious belief. I don't know. Forrest, what do you think? Am I totally off base here?
I don't think so. What you're talking about, it reminds me of the noble lie from the Republic, where Socrates said that we should teach people from birth. We should have a state-run schooling system that we teach people from birth that every person is born with either copper, silver, or gold infused in their body. And that I forgot how exactly he said that would happen, but whatever. But he was saying that, like, basically implementing a caste system, teaching people that by the way you are born, totally out of anyone's control, you have to serve this role in society. And if you go outside of your role, if you hurt people, if you do these other things, then it fundamentally strips you of your position in society. And these people with the gold in their bodies, they are literally from birth supposed to be the leaders. You can't question it and all this thing. And he came up with this concept of what he called the noble lie. He said, we're going to lie to the entire population to get them to behave. And we will have a great society overnight. We will have an amazing society within one generation of people who everybody follows their roles. Everybody does what they're supposed to do. Everybody behaves. There's no more crime. There's no more problems. There's great social structure. All we have to do is spread this lie, and then it'll work. And the problem is the noble lie is not noble. We see it played out right now. I can get on my soapbox and say that we see it played out right now in the American education system, where we teach people that things like capitalism are the natural state of humanity, and it fucking isn't. And we see the results of it. We don't have a perfectly functional system where everyone just perfectly obeys the markets and everything works out. Really, it's bullshit. And I can go on and on for that, but that's not the point of the call. But like, it doesn't work that way. Just lying to people to get them to behave doesn't work out. As John pointed out, plenty of people who are devoted to the religion you're talking about using as a method of domination and domestication of humans. There's still a lot of criminals in there. Now, I do agree that religion is a domestication tool for humans. However, submission shouldn't be the goal. Getting people to submit to an ideology and submit to the authority, even if it is the authority of this monster, should not be the point. I think that education leads to rehabilitation in a much better way. So properly educating people, not spreading a noble lie, but giving people the tools to actually make good decisions, and not having the system that we have now where millions and millions and millions of kids go to school without a counselor, without a therapist, without a psychologist, without good teachers, without good supplies, without good class sizes, without good meals, without good food, but with cops in the school. That is what leads to a lot of the problems we're seeing today. And if we want to fix the issues we see with people in prison right now, bringing education into prison, getting these people the ability to expand their minds and learn a little bit something, learn some skills, learn some new thoughts, there are really cool documentaries about that show people getting bachelor's degrees and stuff in prison. And you hear these people who have never had access to education before behind bars saying, like, I don't know how to explain it to you. I have my brain's working differently. I have new thoughts that I didn't think were possible to exist. This is crazy. And they're going to make different decisions now because of that. It's empowering these people rather than oppressing these people. It is giving them the opportunity to make better decisions rather than forcing them to make the decisions you want. That's the way I see it, Kenneth. I don't think that theism is a good, useful. It is a useful tool in this way. I don't think it's a good one.
Okay, I agree with we should not lie to an entire population. My angle is more for targeted individuals, but you do bring a good point where the prisons can, because more or less in prison you don't have a choice. It's too much, so they can have education systems and educate the prisoners, and through that way they can find a solution to turn a new leaf. But I guess I'm not just saying that those are the ones that I'm just specifically talking about, but there are a lot of people in the world that are, not walking. They're not like criminals, but they're also not doing the world a favor by being in society. And I don't know if it's, I think you're right that it has to do with education, but for them to speak out, they have to kind of admit that there's something wrong with them. But I think a lot of these people,
not at all.
They don't feel like there's they don't think that there's anything wrong with them. And
not at all.
Like, how do you get them?
It's all about societal reframing. So, like, take, for example, psychiatric care. Right now, there's a major stigma against therapy. It's gotten better over the years, but, like, I know when I was a kid, I thought that therapy was just for crazy people, and that if you go to therapy, that means there's something terribly wrong with you, and that you have something to be ashamed of, and that you shouldn't be talking about. Having get on your medicine was an insult to somebody. If someone was acting erratically, go take your medicine and calm down. That was a way to insult somebody. Now we understand that everybody could benefit from psychiatric care the same way that everybody benefits from from somatic care, from caring for the body. Psychiatric care is medical care. And so I wouldn't shame somebody for taking an anti-anxiety medication or an antidepressant or anything like that any more than I would shame somebody for taking chemotherapy. So that for me is the same thing for education. If I might call somebody stupid or something like that on a show like this if they're being very arrogant, but I would never shame somebody simply for not knowing something. And so if we encourage education and we destigmatize ignorance and allow people to know, like, hey, it's a good thing to go and seek more knowledge and go and grow your mind, then that I think that's something that we could sweep away in a couple of generations. I know it doesn't help immediately, but I do think that what you're describing is a social issue, not a inherent problem for people not wanting to seek education.
Right, and I agree but I'm more focusing on the short term solution here, because I know long term we don't know if that will be the outcome. Seeing how the country's kind of cutting the Department of Education and things like that. So my thing is more like, I understand that the ideal situation is that everyone gets more educated, early childhood support and all of that, just so that we will have a lot of these solutions in the long term as these kids grow up. But meanwhile, my question is kind of more like short term, like these people, and I deal with a lot of people who are extremely stubborn, and it's not like you could just tell them like, hey, like, here's that, like, I'm going to tell you a couple of things and you're going to like listen and turn a new leaf. A lot of these people are like the confirmation bias, and whatever the case may be, it prevents them from even trying to educate themselves. And I feel like the only way to penetrate kind of their mind is if they are subjected to some higher power that will lead them to kind of open their mind more. I know, like, might not be the best way, but I feel like short term there's not like a better solution. Like, I'm just thinking, like, you can't get through to some of
I would encourage you to look at the what is it? It's re something when people go back into prison. It's not rescind. It's not recur. Not is it remission?
Recidivism?
Recidivism. That's the one. I think that's right. When people go back to, they get out of prison and they turn around and they get put right back into prison, sometimes for the same stuff, right? I would encourage you to look at the recidivism rate here in the U.S., as well as the prison population here in the U.S., as well as the prison, environment here in the U.S., how people are treated, how people are fed, how people are housed, how many people die in prison, the prisons that don't have functional air conditioning, where people die of heat stroke in the prisons where people are locked in and drown when there's flooding and things like this. Like there's the absolute atrocities taking place in American prisons. I was once talking to the at the time executive director of the ACLU here in Oklahoma, who his line that he would always use is, if you do not have a mental health problem or an addiction problem when you go into jail here in Oklahoma, you will have one when you leave. And when I encourage you to look at that and compare that to other countries, the ones that everyone is always talking about are Scandinavian countries, where they have maximum prison sentences and totally different rules and much, much lower recidivism rates. And just kind of take that into account. Yes, I agree, and I acknowledge that most of the plans that I would want to put into place to lower prison populations and improve outcomes for people would take generations to accomplish. I agree with that, and I know you weren't criticizing necessarily, but it is a very worthy criticism of my position to say that what I'm talking about would take a long fucking time. However, I think there are immediate solutions, immediate changes that we can make based on the models that we see of being effective in other countries that would make this whole situation so much better right now in the course of less than 10 years, and would get us on the road to the long-term solutions that I'm talking about as well. I don't think this is the only way.
An example would be a model of that is independent of government intervention. Like, can you give me an example of what that would be?
What do you mean by government intervention in this way? Because at the end of the day,
Meaning,
prison itself is government intervention.
Government policy or things that kind of change society as a whole and put the country in the right direction. So you're saying that there's other countries that have models in place that doesn't take that long. So like, what would that be that doesn't require voters to vote things into fruition?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's always going to take voting. But like, just as an example, like, I don't know this off the top of my head too well. This is something that I've seen a few times. I'm not an expert in this area. I'm not prepared for this conversation. So you're going to have to fact check the shit out of what I'm saying.
All right.
I'm pretty sure it's in Norway. I'm saying it's either Norway or Sweden. I'm pretty sure it is. Like I said, a lot of people talk about Scandinavian prisons as like a great model of this. One of them, I remember, like, prisoners have like effectively houses to themselves. They have markets that they go to. They have a tremendous amount of autonomy, tremendous amount of freedom within the prison, because the point of being in prison is to rehabilitate them, to tell them, here's why what you did was fucked up. Here's the problem. You are now separated from society. You are, that is the punishment in and of itself. And the point isn't to cage these people like animals and to deprive them of so much humanity that they become even more violent, and it ramps up gang behaviors and all the other things that we see as symptoms of American prisons. And so these people come out, they have a maximum sentence, significantly lower recidivism rates, and they're able to integrate back into society functionally, without having, addiction problems, mental health problems, huge connections of violence. The prisons in the United States have been called university for criminals. You go there and you are now surrounded by, all these criminals who are being forced to behave more criminally in order to survive. And you make a lot of connections and things get a lot worse. So at the end of the day, I think that there are just way better ways to do it. Way better ways to do it. I said I'm not prepared with like examples right now off the top of my head. I encourage you to check them out.
Yeah, and I do agree with what you said, but it's another example that I feel like won't come to fruition in the United States for example, right now we're going the opposite direction with privatizing prisons and things like that. So it's another.
It's not privatizing. Prisons are privatized. That's happened.
Sorry. Right. But yeah, that's another thing. It's like, okay, well, we're gonna have to rely on lobbyists and things like that to get that happen. But it's an uphill fight, I think, since we've been kind of fighting that for many years. But but
that's a whole other.
It because I have gone to church and things like that myself, and recently, just out of curiosity, and they don't. I understand. I listened to this enough to understand that there are certain things in the Bible that encourage slavery and things like that. But when you just show up to the first day, a lot of the sermons and stuff, I understand why they don't want to bring up slavery and all these horrible things. It's all about like love and stuff like that. So there are certain messages I can get behind, of course, but so that's why I'm just thinking like it might not all be bad in the short term. I understand that there are a lot of. I'm just kind of conflicted a little bit. I used to be like, well, if it doesn't hurt anyone, it shouldn't matter. It's helping some people. But then I listened to like Matt and things like that, and I kind of changed my mind again. I'm like, okay, it could lead to policy changes in the government. It's really bad. But then I also talk to people in real life, and I've seen how it helps them, especially the ones that are like a little bit more stubborn, and they kind of are able to submit to God rather than like people and things like that. So I'm like kind of like flip-flopping all day long, just like, I don't know. Before we kind of get the systematic, to have systematic changes in our government, to kind of have earlier childhood support and education and things like that, like I don't know what to think sometimes. So I'm kind of in the middle.
I would just repeat the thing. No matter what you're putting this model in, I don't think that submission should be the goal. I think that's a bad way of looking at it. It's a very authoritarian way of looking at it. It sounds like a new parent saying, well, if I just smack this kid hard enough, they'll behave. And it's like, no, there are better ways to do it that are harder, longer term, but they're far, far, far more worth it. Anyway, I appreciate you bringing all this up, Kenneth. John, do you have anything left before we move on?
No, I'm good.
Sweet chicken. All right. Kenneth, have an awesome rest of your day, man.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye. We've got two atheists on the line. One more atheist call in, specifically because I asked them to. We'll be talking to that person here in a minute. But I want to remind everybody, we've got, hey, thank you, the Fuzzy Logic. It's Norway. A prison cell there is basically like a college dorm room. They see the loss of liberty as punishment enough, so no reason to subject them to inhumane conditions on top of it. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, theists, if you believe in a God and you want to talk to two atheists about it, this is your chance to do so. 720-619-2288. We would love to talk to you about your beliefs. I promise we'll be as nice as you let us be. But you wouldn't believe it if you talk to our next caller. We got David, pronouns he, him, calling in from, I want to say, olfactory hiccups. Like you're smelling and then you stop smelling suddenly. You know what I mean? Like, what is that? What a weird place to call in from. David, when we were on the call with, I believe it was Albert. Who was the first caller that we had? Somebody with an A. Adrian, that's right. We were on the call with Adrian, and I think we were taking him to task justifiably. David was in the chat saying that we are dicks and that we're terrible atheists and that we're I think he said like Matt wannabes or something like that. So tell him to call in, tell it to our face. Here he is. David, you're on the line with Forrest and John. How you doing today?
Oh, pretty good. How are you guys?
I'm all right. So tell us the problem you have with us.
Well, it was just kind of the tone that you had with Adrian there. I kind of, I kind of thought Adrian was being very genuine and telling you his beliefs, and I don't know why you guys do what you do. A lot of people want to change people's minds and try to be convincing, but I mean, if you're too over the top, kind of being an asshole, people aren't going to listen to you. It's not going to change their mind. It's just going to push them away. You know what I mean?
How exactly was I being an asshole to Adrian?
It may be your radio voice. I don't know. I was.
So I should
Wait a
change my
second.
voice?
Hold on. Forrest's radio voice was being a dick? Because I mean, I saw the comments. You said Forrest is a dick. And I like how you come on here and you act like you're like you have reasonable criticisms when you were a total asshole in the comments criticizing Forrest as we were talking to somebody like just over there on the sidelines, just being like, "Oh, Forrest is a dick." And now when you get up here, you're
I'm combining the tone of the voice with what you were saying, and I don't remember now what exactly you were saying, but it was very condescending, that's ridiculous, that type of thing.
Just to be clear, was there a single time in that call where I personally attacked that caller?
I mean, I don't know. I was just watching. I was listening to it, thinking like,
there was not.
Okay. Well,
was there ever a time in that call where there was not a time. Was there a single time in that call where I directly called the caller themselves ridiculous, stupid, anything like that?
Like I said, I don't remember the details of the call. It was just the feeling that I got when okay, can I finish?
Yeah, the answer is no.
I don't remember and I don't remember the details of the call. All I remember is how I felt when I was listening to you talk.
Okay, so you were half listening and you heard me being stern with somebody. Do you remember in the call? Do you remember in the call when the person whose name I've already forgotten again? It's not Albert, and that's Adrian. All I want to call them. Adrian. God damn. Adrian. Yeah, man, my brain is off today. But I say today like it's a rare thing. Adrian gave us inconsistent views. Continuously contradicted himself, was condescending to us, told us that we can't understand morality and that we don't know what good and evil is, told us that we secretly do believe in his God, whether we acknowledge it or not. We criticized his positions alone. And I, did get a little bit heated with him when I called him out on his behavior. I never once insulted him. We banned people from the chat for saying shitty things about his mental state or about what drugs or whatever they thought he was on. We protected Adrian quite a bit, and we're incredibly generous with him considering the amount of time we gave him and the way that we approached only his argument. So I'd like to know, again, what exactly about that is such a problem? And what about that makes you think it's appropriate also to, insult Matt by saying I'm such a dick and I'm acting like Matt? That's an insult to both of us.
No, I wasn't insulting Matt. I was saying you're a Matt wannabe.
Do you think that I am?
Yeah.
Okay. Hang tight. Just wait here for 1 second, David. We're gonna do a thing really quick.
All right. Yeah.
Two seconds. I know there's some dead air here. I'm going to fill it. Don't worry.
Yes, sir.
Matt Dillahunty, how you doing, my friend?
I'm okay.
Hey, I'm live on a stream right now. Are you cool with me putting you on speaker so you can be live as well?
Yeah, I literally just saw you live on.
Oh, that's great. All right, hey, everybody say hi to Matt Dillahunty. Matt Dillahunty's here.
Matt.
Hi.
Hey, I've got a caller here who says that I'm a dick and that I'm rude to callers and that I am being very overbearing and condescending to people. And specifically, he says I'm such a dick that I am a Matt wannabe. So I was curious if you could let me know, just from your opinion, do you think that I emulate you or that I imitate you or anything like that? Would you consider me a Matt wannabe?
Not in the slightest, but I'm clearly delusional.
I mean, who wouldn't want to be like you? Like, I think you're great. I just want to see if you think that I'm copying your style too much is all.
I think you do too.
Not one bit.
Awesome.
Hey, can you hear me right now?
I appreciate it. No, David, he can't hear you. He's on the cell phone here. But yeah, thank you, Matt. I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page and that if I said like, hey, that's clearly silly, that, you couldn't turn around and be like, hey, well, actually, here's these things that I mean, I don't know.
I thought maybe you were calling me so that I could, get in and show him what a real dick might look like.
We can't have nudity on the stream.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
I appreciate you, man. Have an awesome rest of your day, dude.
Yep. Y'all have fun.
Take care.
John.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, there we have it, David. It seems like Matt himself does not think that I am copying his style or that I'm a wannabe of him. If you think that, it seems like you've grossly misunderstood both him and I.
Well, there you have it. I guess I'm wrong and you're right.
It would seem that at least you're wrong. I don't think that I'm right, but it seems like you have judged me too harshly. I do appreciate you calling in and putting your money in your mouth a little bit. But if you have like some serious criticisms, it sounds like you didn't listen very well. And if at the end of the day you think you can do this job better, I encourage you to send your resume to Jimmy.
No, I don't think I can do the job better, but I was sharing my opinion. You asked me to call. Here I am.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been fun. John, do you have anything for
Dave
before we wrap up?
All righty. Goodbye.
I guess not.
I guess not.
He's noping out of here. Now, I mean, I do. While I do appreciate him, definitely calling in after calling you a dick in the chat there. At the same time, I have to. Yeah, well, I mean, I do have to laugh over his reasoning because he's like, I don't know what you said. I just remember feeling offended by your words and your demeanor.
But I don't know what they were.
Yeah, I don't know what they were. Also, your silky smooth voice there makes me hate you. Like that's the weirdest hating that I've ever heard.
I wanted to bring him on and I wanted to give him the opportunity because like so often we get accused on this show of silencing people's opinions and like I have gotten like double-digit emails and comments and messages and stuff and people saying I was banned from the chat because I said this and how dare you not. You can insult me directly. We'll give you a platform. The number's on the bottom of the screen, 720-619-2288, or use the web link in the description. We've got a place for everybody here to talk and to share their ideas. If you have something that's interesting to say, we want to hear you say it. And if it's worth a damn, people want to hear it. But it sounds like we didn't have anything that was worth listening to here. You didn't like the tone of my voice. Sorry. I guess tune out and pick up the listen to the next show or something. I don't know. Oh man, what a show! What a show so far. While we were talking to David, I was just gonna say Dennis. While we were talking to Dennis, we got two more theists calling in, and we still have the one atheist who's been waiting for an hour, and they're going to continue to wait. Do you have a particular one that you're interested in, John, between the two that we got here?
Hold on. Let me, sorry, I did have the call list just up.
Unprofessional.
Yeah, no, totally. Fuck me.
Somebody call in and complain.
I don't know. The one from Tingly Xylophones seems interesting.
I like that. Let's talk to Billy. Pronouns he, him. Calling in from the tingliest of xylophones, has a structured syllogism demonstrating that life is not natural. We'll see how this goes. Billy, you're on the line with Forrest and John. How you doing today?
Not bad. Yourself?
Never had a bad day.
Excellent.
All right, let's talk about it. You have a structured syllogism showing that life is not natural. So we're arguing against abiogenesis here. Just before we get started, are you arguing for a particular kind of creation or just skepticism about abiogenesis?
Yeah, just the argument that life's not natural, or life is comprised of an unnatural component.
Sweet.
Yep.
No creationist model.
I have five premises. I'm sorry, and then the conclusion. But
that's fine.
Like
I've got
4 of them.
My whiteboard. I'm ready to go.
Awesome. So I should start with premise 1.
Seems logical.
The genome contains, or the genome functions algorithmically.
What does that mean?
See, I wasn't going to ask because I was like, we have a software engineer here. and then you come in like, what the fuck is that?
Well, yeah, because I mean, I understand what algorithmically means, like in a proper context, but I'm just kind of curious as to how you're meaning it in this context.
Well, algorithms are comprised of if-then statements, right, and conditionals, and that's how the genome functions.
Okay. Well, would you say? Well, let me ask you something. Does dynamite work algorithmically?
I don't know.
Okay. My point is that DNA is a chemical. It operates by laws of physics and chemistry and all of that. So, like, there are things what we've identified as how chemistry works, and these chemical bonds change and all that kind of stuff. In the exact same way, if you apply like some kind of outside force to what we recognize as TNT. It'll release an immense amount of stored energy, of potential chemical energy in an explosion. That's in your very loose sense of algorithmically, that's the exact same fucking thing. If I apply energy to this chemical, it fucking explodes. An if-then statement.
No, I would say that the functionality of the genome itself, the sequence hypothesis, is different. Like, say in the case of lac operon, if lactose is present and glucose is absent, then express lactase gene. In the sense of p53 tumor suppression, if DNA damage is detected, then activate repair genes or initiate apoptosis. In the event
how
of
does, well,
you're just
so
talking
how
about
does, how does
cell
if
well,
temperature is
Mike,
above threshold, then express HSP genes. So,
well,
okay,
right, you're describing laws of chemistry there, and that's not algorithmically as you're trying to make it sound. I mean, this is like you're trying to make it like it's an if-then statement, but you could literally apply that to any other chemical reaction. I don't know, Forrest, am I hitting this wrong at all? Like with
I don't think so. Like the thing is about what you bring up an operon, and a lac operon is like the standard textbook example of like this is what an operon. So an operon, for people who don't know, it's a cluster of genes within like this regulatory network. It's 99. I'm not a geneticist, and it's been a long time since I took classes about this, but like 99% sure that it's not something you're going to see in a eukaryote. It's something you'd see in like a bacteria, maybe a virus. But what it is that it is influenced by the environment as to the expression rates. And so, for example, like this is producing lactose. Say, for example, in this one gene, if lactose is already present, then you're not going to have a transcription factor able to bind in this way. And so the proteins being produced are also part of this gene regulation. I'm fucking trying like hell to remember my undergrad in this right now, and it's rough. There's probably some geneticists out there screaming, but like basically the way these things work is that you have positive or negative inhibiting factors or something. And so like you'll have, if this gene codes for this protein and this protein is present, then the protein also binds up the transcription factor or whatever, and doesn't allow it to bind to the gene to allow this gene to be expressed anymore and the same protein to be produced anymore. And when the protein is gone, then you have a conformational change in this protein that then acts as a transcription factor and does whatever it's supposed to do. And so literally it's regulated by the presence of the thing that it's trying to produce. And like that's kind of just like a recursive or reflexive way in which these particular gene sequences can function. Is that what you're talking about here, Billy?
Something, well, I mean, I guess something along those lines. There are if-then processes happening all throughout the genome, like in spliceosome processing. It acts like a string parser, scans RNA for patterns, deletes irrelevant segments.
You don't need a spliceosome. You're talking about really advanced, late occurring things to argue against abiogenesis.
Well, no,
that's like bringing up. That's like saying abiogenesis is wrong because you can't make a dog. Like that doesn't make any sense.
I'm not arguing against abiogenesis, like as a concept. I'm arguing against the nature's ability to sequence a functional RNA or sequence a functional genome.
Okay, and so you're doing this by bringing up again really, really complex shit that you don't necessarily need for the smallest genomes.
Well, I'm just trying to establish that the genome functions algorithmically, and that's actually not controversial.
And to John's point, can you name any process in chemistry or physics or molecular biology that does not process or does not function algorithmically in this way, with a series of if-then statements?
Well, I mean, not in a specific way, like the genome. Like the genome has specified complex algorithms.
If you have,
this is not controversial. Like there are scientific papers.
No, the way that you're discussing this is controversial.
Yes, no one is arguing whether or not the genome has what you could call an algorithmic function, where if this happens, then that will happen. That's very obviously a basic concept in molecular biology. What we're asking you is, if I have a thing of baking soda and I pour in some vinegar, then I'm going to get an acid-base neutralization reaction, which is going to produce carbon dioxide. That is algorithmic. Sure. If acetic acid is added to sodium bicarbonate, then it will produce carbon dioxide. That doesn't mean that it's magic. It's a very natural process.
I never said magic. I never said anything about magic. But you're right. You're right.
I didn't say you did.
Algorithmic too. So premise one, you agree with the genome functions algorithmically. Can we move on to premise two?
Yes. Sure.
Premise two actually is kind of explains premise one. It's just that the genome algorithms are comprised of if-then statements, which is also not controversial.
So premise two is redundant.
So, right. So premise three is if-then statements require forethought.
No.
Now that's the one premise I have a feeling that you're.
No. So right, especially not in this particular context, because you are the one that's creating this whole if-then thing, because you're stringing things together. So like you're saying, if this thing happens, then that thing will happen. This is just cause and effect. Like,
coding an if-then statement requires forethought, but acknowledging and describing an if-then statement is not a forethought situation. Once again, we can go back to John destroyed this entire fucking thing with his first question. Kudos to John. If I drop this marker, then it will fall at 9.81 meters per second squared. It will do exactly that. It will never not do that. I would have to change the conditions of the marker, of the environment around the marker. I would have to take the marker to another planet. I would have to, but I am sitting right here. If I drop this, then it will fall at 9.81 meters per second squared. That does not require forethought. That is a description of what is happening naturally.
Well, in algorithms, if-then statements require forethought. That's a given. That's not something that's controversial either.
Right, but the genome is not an algorithm. We agreed it behaves kind of like one, but it is not one.
So Billy. Well, Billy. Let's go back to hold on. Hey, Bill. Wait a second, Billy. Okay, let's go back to Forrest baking soda and vinegar example here, right? Now that chemical reaction, the way that reacts is because of the structure of the molecules and the atoms and everything like that of both vinegar and the baking soda, right? They combine in a certain way given their energy levels of their electrons and like spins and a whole bunch of complicated math. I mean, I've only been through the very basic level of like organic and inorganic chemistry and doing those equations, but there's a very specific way that those yeah, I know, fuck me. Very specific way that those things combine, and then carbon dioxide is produced as byproduct of that chemical reaction, right? So if what you're saying about DNA and all of that is true about it being algorithmic and requiring forethought, you would then have to agree that God has some kind of forethought, or there is some kind of forethought in that chemical reaction. Otherwise, you are making an argument about a magical element to the DNA, like the chemistry that revolves around DNA. So you inherently have to make a magical argument if you're saying that DNA operates differently than every other chemical that we've had experiences with.
I'm not saying that it operates differently. Sure, it operates the same, but if then statements do indeed require forethought and planning, they're essentially
okay. Then would you agree that there's forethought in the mixture of vinegar and baking soda to produce carbon dioxide?
I mean, if you're mixing baking soda and vinegar to produce carbon dioxide, then sure.
No.
Right.
Acetic acid and baking soda are acetic acid and sodium bicarbonate are both natural products. They occur in nature.
Sure.
If one comes into contact with another, they will behave the exact same way at the exact same rate, barring temperature differences, pressure differences, blah, 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 as if I were just to pour one into the other.
But is there?
The chemical reaction. Sorry. I just wanted to clarify what I was saying. The chemical reaction itself does not require forethought. The chemical reaction is going to operate however the way that it operates according to the laws of chemistry and physics. But I guess I was trying to highlight that you were saying that you, as a thinking agent, mix those two things. So you made the decision to cause that reaction to happen. Now, not every chemical reaction in nature requires some kind of sentient being to make it happen. There are natural things that just happen in nature, right? I mean, we both agree. That's a non-controversial statement, like a real non-controversial.
Right. But if there's an information mechanism that does these that performs these operations according to a system, then
what's an information mechanism? I'm sorry, I'm having to stop you so much. What's an information mechanism?
The genome.
How is the genome an information mechanism?
Would you say that the genome contains information?
No. I think that we can interpret the genome as information.
Oh my God. No, I would not.
I think Forrest choking on his own spit like an adult is information in some kind of way. Like you can interpret information out of everything.
Well, the science of bioinformatics.
That is the long and short of it. Yeah.
Wait, the science of bioinformatics exists because the genome is a code with information in it. That's why they call it bioinformatics.
Right. What you have to understand is you are interpreting that. You are creating that interpretation. So, like, yes, the sequence of nucleotides in your DNA does cause a specific thing, and you are now calling that information. At the end of the day, if you were to change nucleotide sequence, you get a different result. There's no there's no magical thing in here saying like it must be this way or it must be that way. It just is what it is, and then it's going to behave that way based on basic laws of chemistry. Let me ask you, like, I've got some questions I've written down over here, but I want to hear, you said you had 5 things. What's your next one? What's number 4? Because I bet I know where it's going.
Number 4 is nature's not capable of forethought or thought in general. That's number 4.
And what's 5?
Number 5 is genome is required for life. And then the conclusion is, therefore, life is not natural.
Right. So you said you offered no creation model. However, you've said now that nature isn't capable of forethought. And then I'm going to put 6-year life equals unnatural.
Life is unnatural.
So, yeah, I'm just keeping little notes here. So you said that nature is not capable of forethought. Now, John and I are going to vehemently disagree with the fact that forethought is involved, but let's say we're not. So let's just pretend for a second that we agree that there clearly must be some sort of thing that created, or that had to think ahead, that some sort of forethought that caused this algorithm. What is capable of forethought?
Intelligent things.
Right. And so if something intelligent uses forethought to put together an algorithm, what might you call that system or that process?
An intelligent thing, a hyper-intelligent thing.
That you just described the thing again. If an intelligent thing uses forethought to come up with an algorithm and then produce that algorithm, what would you call that whole process, that whole thing that's happening there? The thing with the intelligence making the algorithm, what is that whole process called?
Design. Call it design.
Intelligent design. Yes.
Intelligent
so
design.
What you have proposed here, you called in. The first thing I asked you is, are you proposing a model for creationism? You said no. But at the end of the day, that's exactly what you've done. You're proposing intelligent design, which is creationism in a cheap lab coat.
That wasn't part of my argument, though. You drugged that out of me. I wasn't going.
Right, but I just want to. I just want to be clear about the fact that what you are doing here is saying, I don't understand how this thing could have possibly happened naturally. Therefore, I reject it and necessarily implant this magical model that I have no evidence for.
No, you are superimposing that into my argument. I've made no argument of that kind.
If life isn't natural,
at this point you are.
If life isn't natural, if the beginning of life is not a natural occurrence, then you must have a supernatural, something outside of the natural, which is participating in this event, right?
Which could be just a hyper-intelligent thing. I don't care what it is.
Which is magic.
I mean, how do you know that?
Because it is outside of natural. It is outside of nature. It is supernatural. Because you said it isn't natural. So if it isn't natural, what other options are there besides natural and supernatural? What are the other options?
There's unnatural.
Unnatural. What is the difference between unnatural and supernatural?
Supernatural is something that is that defies the laws of physics, and unnatural is just something that isn't natural.
What does that mean? What is the difference between unnatural and defying the laws of physics?
Because things that are unnatural don't necessarily have to defy the laws of physics.
Give me an example of an unnatural thing besides the intelligent creator thing that you're talking about.
Your car is an unnatural thing. My computer is an unnatural
thing. So when you say unnatural, you just mean not something that you can randomly find in nature without some sort of intelligent intervention.
That obviously that's the definition.
Okay. So then if this is a thing, if this intelligent creator thing is not a natural occurrence and operates in non-natural ways that obey the laws of physics, then where did it come from?
I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Do you have a mechanism that can produce something which is intelligent and can create algorithms and stuff like that? Unnaturally?
No, I don't.
No, which means your argument here is, I can't think of a natural way to produce DNA, therefore there must be some guy that did it, and I can't think of a way to produce that guy. So all you've done is kick the can down the road and say, here's this other thing that I can't account for that accounts for this other thing that I can't account for. That doesn't do anything.
I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Christian. Dude.
I didn't say
and
you
I,
were.
I don't follow any type of religion. So I don't know why
didn't say you did.
trying to inject. Well, it seems like you think that I'm trying to inject some kind of I have
not even implied that.
You kind of have.
No, I haven't.
I mean,
you said,
maybe
can you, okay.
Well,
you said that there's an intelligence, there is an intelligent being that created an algorithm.
I never said
You
that.
said there is an intelligent thing, that created an algorithm.
I never said that either. I never made that claim.
Okay.
You said hyper intelligent.
Then let me ask you the next question. Can you give me an example? Can you give me an example of intelligence existing outside of a thing?
No, I can't.
So here we are again, where you don't have a model for understanding how DNA comes about naturally. So you have created this something that isn't a thing, but is intelligent and does have agency and can create an algorithm, but you have no model for where that comes from, how it exists, or how it's a thing without being a thing.
That's not my argument.
Once again, Billy. Yes, that is exactly your argument. You don't know where the genome comes from. You are claiming that the genome requires intelligence to get started. That is your claim, that the genome requires intelligence to get started. And therefore, there must be some intelligence that exists, that got it started. That's the foundational claim that you have. However,
I don't care what started it. I don't care what started it, dude. That's
you said it's an intelligence, right?
I don't, only because you drug that out of me. I'm
trying, Billy, I am addressing your entire point here, because at the end of the day, you gave us a 5 premise and 1 conclusion system here. By premise 3, we had already dismissed it. It made no fucking sense. But I'm more interested in the fact that the implications of what you're saying make less sense than what you're saying itself. Because we can sit here all day and argue about whether or not if-then statements require forethought. We're not going to get anywhere because you are not actually talking at the same level we're talking. You are on this other thing that you are denying being at, that you're trying not to talk about. You're trying to avoid talking about because it makes no fucking sense. And it's putting you in the exact same position that you're accusing us of being in.
And you're right.
Because it's the same problem that you're accusing us of having.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Dude.
It is exactly the same.
I've got tons of evidence that shows that if-then statements do indeed require forethought. So
Billy.
premise number 3 is there are no flaws in premise 3. So
Billy, we have already moved past it because it's useless. The point that I'm trying to get across to you. Please don't, Billy. I'm asking you politely to not make me use the mute button here. The point that I'm trying to get across to you, you say if I mute you, you'll hang up.
Yes, that's what I do.
Oh, well, that's a stupid and bitchy thing to do. Like what a cowardly way to behave. You call into a show and expect to dominate it and control the whole conversation. How arrogant!
No, I don't support fascism. That's all.
You think that's you don't? Okay, well then you don't know what fascism is. So no one's surprised. But here's the thing, Billy, is that we're not dealing with premise number 3 because we've already dismissed it. What I'm more interested in talking about here is that what the end goal, the end result of your thing here is landing you in the exact same position that you're accusing us of being, which is having a system for the beginning of life that you can't account for or create or come up with a natural process for or anything. You are exactly as ignorant as you're pretending that we are.
I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to.
But that is what you're doing.
No, that's not what I'm doing, dude. You're not paying attention.
That is.
I'm not.
That is exactly what you're doing.
I'm not trying.
Can you define what fascism is?
I'm trying to. Yes, it's a forcible suppression of opposition, which is what happens whenever you mute somebody. You're forcibly suppressing your opposition. And
that's neither what fascism is, nor is it what you're doing with the mute button.
I mean, even fascism, like a perfect example is when you hang up on somebody and then you continue the conversation while they've been effectively removed from it. That's fascism.
That's not fascism. That's ending a conversation.
No, and then continuing the conversation while they're no longer able to participate.
Yes, which you have done, which you, Billy, do all the time, probably almost every time you end a conversation.
I mean, I'm not forcibly suppressing you at all. You're the one with the mute button.
Have you ever carried on a conversation? Have you ever been on this show, hung up, and then talked about the conversation you had on the show with somebody?
No.
You've never talked about the conversation you've had on the show with anybody after you ended them.
Not after hanging up on you. No.
Sure. You just erase it from your mind.
I've only been hung up on unless you guys mute me and then I hang up. So that's how that goes.
Mm-hmm. And then you completely just erase the conversation from your brain. You won't bring it up to anybody ever again.
Well,
makes sense.
No. Well, I'll talk about it, but not after I've hung up on you or
Billy. Do you realize that's a bitch move?
I can't forcibly suppress. But you guys
Billy, you realize that's a bitch move, right? Like that's literally you.
I don't give two fucks if that's a bitch move, dude. Like the fact is, it's fascist.
Okay.
I'm not going to deal with that.
It's not fascist. I can't stress enough that's not what fascism is. Right. You are doing the meme right now of everything I don't like is fascism.
Why don't you look it up, dude? The forcible suppression of opposition is absolutely
forcible suppression of opposition. Forcible suppression of opposition is a part of fascism, but it is not the definition of fascism, which is what I asked for.
Exactly.
And also, us being the host on Billy, shut the fuck up. But when we're on the host, where we're the host of this show and we're trying to steer the conversation the right way, and you keep fucking talking over us, it is bad for us and the audience to let you do that. That's why the mute button exists. It's not to forcibly suppress your views. This isn't your fucking show, and nobody owes you their time or attention. Nobody has to have a conversation with you. So if somebody chooses to end the conversation because they're bored of your bullshit, that's not fascistic. That's them being bored of your bullshit. And the fact that you can't tell the difference is, as John pointed out, a bitch move.
This is the only way you guys can contend with my fucking argument is by starting shit with me.
I'm sorry, Billy. Billy,
you're so
Billy.
Bitch.
I muted Billy. Billy, you're muted.
Now he's gonna hang up and feel justified. Oh, what a bitch. The fact that you're actually behaving that way? Are you fucking kidding me?
There he goes.
Billy's a fucking toddler. Oh my God.
Okay. First of all, I do want to say that at the very beginning of the call, we shut down the entire argument before he started because he described, the DNA algorithmic. And, we thoroughly handled how if he's going to call that algorithmic, then everything's algorithmic, in chemistry. And so, like, for him to be like, oh, the only way that we can contend with his argument is by muting him. No, the only way that we can cut through him interrupting us is muting him. But to combat his argument, yeah, we fucking handled it at the very beginning. So yeah.
That's just fucking literally by premise 1, his argument was gone. By premise 3, the premises made no fucking sense, and he was trying so desperately to ignore the fact that he was doing the thing he was accusing us of doing with his actual full argument that he was trying not to talk about. And that he doesn't know what fascism is, doesn't understand that people can just not want to talk to him, and then has to behave like a fucking toddler. I cannot. I genuinely can't handle that a grown fucking man had to do that to maintain his own ego. I have not seen anyone crash out that hard in a minute. That was fucking rough. Oh my God. Yeah. Billy, go learn what fascism is, what algorithms are, how chemistry works, what thinking is, and how not to be such a fucking bitch. Go Google all those things and then come back to the show sometime. And when you can tolerate people actually treating you like a grown-up and not a little baby that needs to be coddled and allowed to speak and talk and say whatever they need to say to get their feelings out, maybe then we can have a productive conversation. Oh my God. Oh, but here we are talking about him when he's not here. That's fascism, don't you know?
That's fascism.
That makes us literal Nazis.
We're oppressing him.
Billy isn't fascist. That's why he's literally he's never discussed a conversation that he opted out of. Never once. He's never done that. What a fucking goober. We've got a couple calls left. Let's talk to, we have one more theist on the line. The fuzzy logic, the first 4 words of the definition of fascism are a system of government. And here we are governing. Don't you see? This is America. This is what government is when 2 idiots get on a fucking call-in show and talk about Jesus for 3 hours. That's the government. And the mute button is the system. We got Tony, pronouns he, him, calling in from vigorous assault. Just attacking, going crazy. That's what Tony's doing. He's geared to be violent against us. Who is deconstructing and wants to know if there is room for logical, science-based epistemology for the possibility of anything supernatural. Tony, you're on the line with Forrest and John. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for asking. Man, you guys were just dicks to Billy there. That was just awful.
It's so mean. We're so mean. God,
I'm sorry.
It's
amazing
what are we going to start watching the show?
When are you guys going to start the XXX After Hours edition where Matt Dillahunty can come show everybody what a real dick looks like? Is that going to happen?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and then we can all emulate him forever because that's what we do here on the show.
5s and 5s of people would tune in to see that, I think. No, I'm kidding.
Oh man.
Anyway. So I'm kind of on the backside of deconstructing. I grew up in the church, and I actually worked in ministry for a while as a youth pastor. And like science has always just made sense to me. Like my grandfather, he was a biologist for the federal government, and like when I was a kid, I thought he knew everything because there was never a question I could ask that he didn't have the answer to. And like I was that kid growing up in Sunday school that would like actually the teacher or the pastor or something, when they would say something scientifically inaccurate, I'd be like, actually no, that's I can't think of an instance, but it's always been something that stood out to me. And as when I say I'm on the backside of deconstructing, I'm kind of reconstructing to determine what I actually believe about the nature of life and the universe and existence and all that kind of stuff, because there are certain things they've just been ingrained into me for such a long time that I don't know whether I believe them or if it just simply was a part of me from such a young age that I can't differentiate, you know? So I've been kicking around these ideas, and I'm not ready to go out on the branch of calling myself an atheist. I'm not sure if the entity, the consciousness, if there is such a thing, I don't know that I would consider it a god, but there are so many different elements of the supernatural that show up across cultures and religions and beliefs, and across, you know, from the dawn of time, we've had stories of ghosts and, you know, disembodied spirits and spooky things in the woods and that sort of thing. And I'm just wondering, you know, if the essence of science and scientific research and discovery is to attain a greater understanding of all things natural, what if science is the wrong tool to study the supernatural? It's sort of like looking for a block of wood with a metal detector. Like, it's just the wrong tool. You're not going to get there. You know what I mean? So this is kind of where I'm at. I've got a lot of thoughts. I don't quite have them all organized into any meaningful sense. And actually, John, I think it may have been an episode I watched with you on it a while back, where you discussed this idea of some entity attaining a level of transcendence and then retroactively kind of writing itself into the creation of the universe. Does that sound familiar to you?
It doesn't sound like anything that I would have said. So
you weren't presenting it as like something you believed, but it was just a conceptual idea that somebody on the show mentioned. I'm trying to remember what the hell the term was, and I can't, and it's bugging the hell out of me. But whatever. I have said a lot What are your thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things here that I think are really important. Number one is that you're talking about like these ubiquitous concepts across cultures all around the world about like ghosts and the supernatural realm and all these things, and like that like is generally, as far as I know, I'm not a cultural anthropologist, but like as far as I understand from my little bit of training in there, is that like is kind of just a natural occurrence that you have intelligent people seeing that this person goes to sleep every night and they wake back up. And then one time they went to sleep and they didn't wake back up. And so there must be something there that's driving them that goes away. When I kill this deer, it doesn't get back up. So there must be something more going on. And this concept of like a spirit realm or an afterlife is strongly reinforced by the same things that we get from people today, where they're like, well, I feel my parent that died a little while. I had a dream about them. I could have sworn I heard their voice or whatever, what I mean? All these things that are totally normal psychological occurrences that just, when you don't know any better, can kind of take charge of you. I've been around a lot of cadavers in my life, and I can tell you, even now, like you see a dead person and like, sometimes you fucking swear they're moving. Like, it's just like, it takes a little while to get used to the concept that this person isn't getting up. And so like for early humans who don't have any concept of what a logical fallacy is or how to avoid, bad thinking, or so to speak, it would make sense that they would come to these conclusions and lean into these very human behaviors and believe that there's more to them than there really is. And that sounds a little bit like hand waving away until you compare it to other things that are ubiquitous across cultures, like, the monsters that people believe in. Were there really cyclopses, or did more than one population find an elephant skull and be like, oh shit, this thing has a big hole in the middle of it, that must be a big eyeball, And so cultures around the world have dragons and flying monsters and all these other things that, like, certainly we wouldn't be sitting here talking about possible validity of if it weren't as culturally accepted as religion is. So at the end of the day, you're describing behavior. Yeah, please.
I was just going to say, 'cause I don't want to get too far into the weeds on that specifically. I was mentioning the ubiquity of those concepts just to kind of point out the fact that, like, things of the supernatural seem to be everywhere. You know what I mean? Like they crop up in cultures and so forth. Not that I necessarily put a lot of stock in them as evidence, but just sort of like, if there's enough people who claim to have the same experience or seen the same thing and they've never communicated with one another. I mean, I guess it goes into some like deal with the aliens stuff, but I mean, maybe there are aliens, I don't know, but enough people have similar experiences. It's sort of like, okay, maybe we need to look into this. But I was just thinking more on a bigger picture kind of thing. Like if the entire essence of the supernatural is something that can't be measured with scientific, tangible methodologies, what if, like, is there room within your understanding and your epistemology to explore those avenues?
Sure. So it's really important to remember with, like, when we talk about this kind of thing, we're talking about agnosticism, which, just to give the general concept to everybody is, atheism is whether or not you believe a God exists. Gnosticism is whether or not you know. And so you can be an agnostic atheist or an agnostic theist. I do believe in a God, but I don't know for sure, or, whatever.
Right.
And so what we're talking about here is, you use the word epistemology, which is great. How do we know what we know? Are we willing to actually say we know a thing? And when are we willing to say that we actually know a thing? And in order to get there is, if we don't have the tools to study this and we don't have a way to say whether or not this thing, then why would we go about believing it? Unless we find a tool to study. We used to not know, that what pick your favorite, man. Like, we used to not know what Pluto was, and then we developed the tools to find it. Even though Pluto was there the whole time, nobody should have believed in Pluto. before we saw it until we had evidence of it, because there's no reason to, because you didn't have any actual evidence. So same thing with germ theory. Leeuwenhoek, developing a simple microscope and checking the plaque on his teeth and seeing microorganisms and stuff. Before that time, if somebody came along, Ignaz Semmelweis or whoever, and says, listen, y'all, there's these tiny little microscopic things crawling around your hands and they can get you sick. That was true. No one should have believed it until there was a good reason to. So yeah, maybe there's this God, maybe there's these ghosts, maybe there's all these things, and maybe, like you said, we're looking for wood with a metal detector and we just don't have a way to find it. If it's true, then we need to find a better way to find it. And so far, we have done everything we know how to do, everything that has ever worked to give us any sort of insight into what the natural world really is. And we haven't found a single thing, like not even close. So even if it's true, there's no reason to think it is what I'm coming from.
Well, I don't know if you ever read, there's this short story that was making the rounds on social media ages ago called The Egg. And the essence of it is the person in the story, they die and then the afterlife. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah. And the universe is one big egg for the next thing.
Right. And so, like, this whole thing, the whole purpose of this is to prepare us for something bigger, something transcendent, something whatever. And, like, even if we are exhausting all of our scientific methodologies for looking for those things, is there ever a point that we should give up looking? Like, is there ever a point where you say, like, I mean, what if the people who discovered or are looking for the cure for cancer, they stop short of just finding it and they're like, well, we're never going to find it, and they throw up their hands and walk away, and we never end up with a cure for cancer? What if there is something out there? And go ahead.
I think the difference is, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I think the difference is, because I agree. We've been working for the cure for cancer for a long time, and we haven't got it yet. But that doesn't mean that we haven't gotten a whole fuck of a lot closer. And what the thing is, as we've gone on this journey of studying with trying to figure out cancer, we have learned what cancer is better. We know our enemy better. We know what makes it work. We know what makes it tick. We know how to. We know what we're missing more and more every day. We can see the outline of the puzzle piece, even if we can't see the whole puzzle. You know what I mean? And like that's so important in terms of the scientific process. Is like, you're right. We shouldn't just give up trying to study something because we haven't made any progress yet. I 100% agree with that. The issue is we haven't even made progress in figuring out what the fuck we're talking about yet, let alone how to start searching for it, let alone what we'd be looking for if we knew. And so, like, you get to this point where it's like, you don't have to say, okay, I know for sure this isn't real, or I just don't, I'm never going to try again. But you can get to a point where, like, this very clearly isn't worth my fucking time. Maybe there is another cause of disease beyond germ theory, right? We do, and I'm speaking very, very loosely here, because of course, there's other carcinogens like radiation, blah blah blah. But I'm saying, like, if we talk about, like, just in general, what causes the flu? It's the fucking flu virus. Maybe there's something else that causes the flu. Well, we haven't found it yet, and we don't even know what that would possibly be if it isn't a virus and it isn't a bacteria and it isn't a fungus and it isn't anything like. So we have no model for what it could be. We have no idea what it could look like. We don't know what to use to look for something like that, if such a thing exists in the first place. We don't know what a positive, test would mean or be or look like. So we don't know if we even got the right answer or not. So at a certain point, like, we just kind of have to kind of move on with the best data that we have. And I think, like, there is the risk for sure that you might miss out on something that way. But if that thing really exists, then down the line, we will, by only following what we know is true, we will eventually develop something that can help us peer into new realms, as we did with radio, as we did with telescopes, as we did with infrared, as we did with microscopy, as we did with, in so many ways, we blew our minds because we discovered a totally new realm of existence that we didn't think was possible, because we developed new technology to see it, given the science that we have. So I'm willing to risk putting off that discovery to make sure that I don't sacrifice every discovery and every bit of science that I know works. Does that make sense?
It does. It really does. And I think the thing that kind of keeps me on the hook, so to speak, is just some remnant vestigial piece of the faith that I was raised in, and the notion that, you know, someday I'm going to die, and if I don't figure out what the hell's going to happen after that happens, then I might not end up in the good place or whatever. If there is a place, I don't know. But like, there's just that sort of lingering thing in the back of my mind. I don't necessarily believe in a specific deity. And actually, as I've kind of looked into my personal spiritual beliefs and so forth, I realized I was just reinventing Buddhism at a certain point. But I want to believe that there is more to existence, and maybe the universe is kind of like Deep Thought in the Hitchhiker's Guide series, and it was, this whole thing is just a computer program to discover the meaning of life, and that's why we're here. And that's sort of remnant of Alan Cummings saying that, you know, people are what happens when the universe wants to think about itself, you know. And you know, I'm just searching, I'm grasping, I'm reaching. And I mean, do you or John, do either of you personally hold on to any remnant thread of, you know, wanting to believe or suspicion or hunch or notion that there is anything beyond the tangible universe that we can detect?
Well, so for me, I guess when I left religion, I kind of did away with all of that, and the primary reason for that is because that I feel like that makes this life much more valuable. It made me appreciate this life and really want to seek out like a better situation for myself than I was in, because this is the only life that I get. There's nothing after this life or anything like that, as far as we can tell. And so that it just made me value my life and want to better my life even more so, because this is the only life that we get. So I guess I don't hold on to any of that, and I feel like holding on to that, at least in my view. I'm not saying that anybody else should feel this way, but in my view, for me personally, it devalues my life to think about some kind of existence outside of this life.
Yeah, I have a similar concept, because like I was raised pagan, and I was taught, about all this sort of magic and ghosts and spirits and all these things. And I, like, when I deconstructed from that, when I started tearing that apart, I did have those kind of vestigial remnants for a long time. And it was a lot about death. And it was a lot about what kind of ghost I'm going to be and how, and about like what kind of like spirits are around me. And I kind of held on to that concept of like, well, magic is real. It's just science we don't understand yet. And I actually used the same kind of analogies that you did. I didn't say exactly the same thing, but like the idea of like, looking for wood with a metal detector, it was very much up my alley at one point. And I just found that the more I cared about, I'm not saying you don't, but the more that I cared about whether or not what I believed was actually true and had a good reason to believe it, and was it useful? Did it have any actual utility in the real world? Did it make any sense in the real world? And if not, then like, why do I have a special set of rules for this then? And it became progressively easier and easier and easier to put those beliefs down and be like, you know what? If someday we find out that there actually is some science to therapeutic touch therapy, which, if you don't know, it's where you like hold your hands over people and you can like channel energy into them and heal their wounds, which people used to believe in. It was taught. Nurses used to do therapeutic touch stuff where they were like, and then literally there was I forgot the name of the girl, but you can look it up. This like little girl did a science fair project testing therapeutic touch, where she put a trifold up and cut 2 holes in the bottom and put her hands through it and had nurses come out. And she said, put your hand over one of my hands and do your thing, and I'll tell you whether or not I can feel it. And she found she couldn't ever. And it was like the results were no better than chance at any point. And they debunked. She completely debunked it, and there was this massive news thing about it. And now that's obviously not true. But when I was a kid, I was taught that kind of shit. I was taught about Reiki and therapeutic touch and how to channel energy into people to heal and all this shit. And you know what? Someday, if that's a real thing and I can be a fucking wizard, that sounds rad. I would want to know that. I want that to be true.
You're a wizard, Forrest.
Awesome, right? I want that to be the case. But it doesn't appear to be so. And so I'm going to devote my time and my energy to studying ways that I absolutely know help people, that are best actually based on evidence-based best practice and like things that I actually know are real. And I'm going to spend my life trying to get there. And if I figure out one day we invent a new machine and like, holy fuck, if you do this and this and this, you can fucking heal somebody's cancer with your mind, y'all. I'm in it. I want to do it. But until that day, I'm not giving it any thought. I'm not going to waste my time on something that may not be serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't put a lot of stock into the woo-woo, what's the word?
Sure.
Alternative medicine type stuff and things like that. You know,
because I don't have a a hell concept to be afraid of, but I have things like that that might help.
And I have looked into those, and I have had friends that have dabbled in those things and were raised in them, same as you were, and stuff like that. And it just didn't jive with my understanding of, you know, how the universe and life and scientific principles function and things like that. I mean, I took them at face value for a minute, and I assessed it as long as was necessary, and then I was like, nah. But I think just from a bigger sense, not necessarily just, you know, like psychics and pseudo powers and whatever else, but just an essence of there being some reason behind all of this. And just in the on the subject of like finding utility, when I came to a point of realizing, and there's a quote that I've heard across atheist YouTube, I don't know who first coined it, but if you require either the promise of paradise or the threat of damnation to be a good person, you're not a good person. You're a bad person on a leash. As I came to address that, and I realized that anything done altruistically in the name of a religion is ultimately self-serving. It's not charitable. It's not kindness. It's I'm doing this because I think I'm going to get rewarded for doing so. And that blew my mind, and I was like, holy shit. Like every good thing I've ever done for somebody else, I ultimately was doing for myself. And so I just took a huge step back in my appreciation for other people and my valuing of other people. Like I see people in a very vastly different way than I used to, because I see their intrinsic value, regardless of who they are, or what they're doing, and anything like that. And, you know, I'm going to do the right thing because it's the right thing, not because I think I'm going to be rewarded, or if I don't, then I'm going to be punished. And it's just like that, from just a practical standpoint, has benefited me enormously in life, both in my relationships and interactions with other people. And, you know, I that's kind of what's got me on this journey. Like, I feel like that's like the first couple of steps towards something bigger, some higher understanding, and maybe the essence of discovering meaning in life is we're meant to find it through our interactions with other people, you know? And what if the whole point of religion is to grow beyond the need for it? What if religion is our training wheels, and eventually we're meant to shed that and just be able to ride without threats or the promise? You know what I mean?
As a story, and not the religion story, but the story of religion being the training wheels, and as a concept of like cultural growth, I think those are fine ways to talk about that. So, you know, I think it's a lovely analogy. But at the end of the day, you're hitting the same wall, which is like, okay, what if? And if, then where's the evidence of that? And if no evidence, then why continue pretending like that? Like I said, the idea that people are growing beyond the need for religion and are being better and better to each other and don't need the training wheels anymore, 100%. Love it. Let's do that. But let's do it without saying that this is the way it's supposed to be, because there's no reason to think this is the way it's supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think there are elements of morality that, I mean, you can argue about it. I think there are elements that are objective, and I think just coming down to the notion of like, hey, if you don't like somebody doing that to you, don't do it to other people. I feel like that's objective, even though it's subjective on some level, but it's a universal concept that we can all kind of get behind. Like, we all have a sense of self, and we all have a sense of what we do and don't like having done to us. I mean, I guess that varies to some degree, but yeah, I don't know. Ultimately it comes back to just this notion of wanting there to be something behind it all, and not necessarily in the sense that I want to have an afterlife and I want to see. I mean, yeah, I would love to see my loved ones again for eternity, but more, this feels important, you know?
Yeah. And even that, like, I think it's really important to remember, like, even that, it's like, what's really, there's this famous clip from Stephen Fry talking about Mormonism, and they're like, you understand, if you when you die, like, you get to be around all your family, all your relatives, all together for eternity. And he goes, okay, well, what happens if I'm good? And, like, so it's just even you're right. Like, the way that I want to be treated, that whole golden rule thing, I promise you, if I treated my wife the way that I want to be treated, she would fucking leave me. She hates that shit. She's not extroverted. She doesn't want to be on camera. She doesn't want to be probed with questions. She doesn't want to. And if I tried to give my wife the kind of things that I want, she would not like it. And so, like, there's this idea of this, some people call it, like, the platinum rule. Treat people how they want to be treated, all this kind of thing, And I think the same thing with religion. Like, there's no promise that religion makes that you're not going to find somebody that's like, hey, maybe not for me, And so paradise is entirely subjective, and good and evil is at the end of the day, I agree there's some objective components to it that I can base on things like human health and well-being. But it's going to be real hard to pin down. And still, at the end of the day, there's no good reason to believe in any of it. And so, like, I'm just going to continue trying to be the best dude I can. And I'm going to continue trying to shake off these training wheels as best I can. And I'm going to continue trying to advance humanity as best I can. And I'm going to die, and everyone's going to forget me. And that's the way that it is for everybody else too. And that's okay. And it's not there are things that I'd like to change, and a lot of people wouldn't like those things. And so I'm just going to do my best. And that's all I can hope for. And I'm going to try to know what's true. And that's the best I can do. That's all I got for you, Tony. It really is that simple. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, dude, don't apologize. Like, you've given me a lot to chew on. And I've been a fan of yours for a long time, and it's good to actually interact with you on a meaningful level. I've been wanting to call in for a while, but I think you and the other hosts on these shows across the various related channels and so forth, I think you guys are out there doing a lot of good in the world, and there's a lot of love and there's a lot of support, and especially with the climate in our country being the way it is right now, we need a whole hell of a lot more than that. I'm going to keep chasing this rabbit trail until I either find the end of it or I run out of steam, I guess. But I don't know. I always found the mysteries of life more interesting. I mean, yeah, science is interesting and fascinating, and it lets you do things. But
bro, if you like the mysteries, let me tell you some good news about science. That's the whole job. is figuring out the mysteries. So, like, get in here, dude. Start asking questions. You'll take a long time of everybody telling you what we know. You're in for like a solid half a decade at least of everybody telling you what we do know, and then you're going to get to a point where they're going to start telling you what we don't know, and that's where you start doing the really fun stuff.
Yeah, I dig in. I get into it more of a conceptual level. I don't have the brain for math to be a physicist, and I'm too grossed out by wet things to be a biologist. And I don't know, rocks aren't that interesting to me. So I do like outer space and astrophysics and things of that nature. But again, math. I'll chew on it from more of a conceptual level.
I failed Algebra 1, Introductory Basic Algebra, for like fucking a long time. I want to say about 13 years. I took it in 6th grade, and I failed, and I took it in 7th grade, and I failed, and I took it in 8th grade, and I failed, and they put me in remedial algebra in 9th and 10th, and I kept failing. And then in 11th and 12th, they finally just kind of shuffled me along so I could graduate, but I still didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And then I went to college and I took it like 3 times. And I was at the point where I was in like the what is a number courses, like basic shit, just because they wouldn't let me take anything else. I had to start there. And I was like bored out of my mind. Just try, like, I know what fucking addition is. I don't know what y = mx plus b is, And finally, right before I got my first degree, I had another fucking Algebra 1 class, and I had this lady named Dr. Fisher. She was a PhD in mathematics, and I called her. Went to her office hours, and I was like, I want to be a scientist so fucking bad, but I can't do fucking math. And she's like, why? And I was like, I think in processes. I think about what things are. I don't think about formulas. You tell me to plug these numbers in to this formula. I don't know why. And I don't remember the formula, and I don't fucking care. And so I keep trying to do it as a process, and it doesn't work. And she goes, oh, fuck, here's your answer. And she spent an afternoon with me showing me all the derivations of every fucking formula, like starting from basic scratch.
Yeah.
Yes, starting from scratch. Okay, slope is y2 minus 1, y1 over x2 minus x1. Why is that? So here's what the line is, and here's where the positions are, and this is where these numbers are going on this formula, and this is what comes out, and this is why it's this way. And we literally built algebra together, and immediately I got it, and I was able to breeze through algebra 1, further for algebra 2. I did college algebra I didn't use a calculator. I did all the way through intro calc. And then I had to start using calculators for that shit. And it was just, I was going into higher level math than I even needed, because it finally made sense, because it was a language and not a formula. So I think if you think you're bad at math, you have not given yourself the opportunity to get fucking good at math. You haven't found a good enough teacher. And let me tell you, it takes, on average, if I remember correctly, about 5 years of immersion. If you're talking about like a non-Latin language, something that doesn't use our alphabet, something like Chinese or Arabic or something, 5 years of immersion before you start to become fluent. Have you ever given that fucking time to math? No, you fucking haven't, Tony. So don't write yourself off right now. Go get a better fucking teacher and become an astrophysicist and figure out how the goddamn universe started, and call me the fuck back and tell me what the fuck's going on out there, because I want to know. It's your job. You be the next big scientist.
Well, I will raise a glass to that teacher, whoever it was that taught you how to do that. They're in education for the right reasons. What's that?
Yeah. Her name was Dr. Ann Fisher, and she's fucking awesome. And let me tell you, I met her at Tulsa Community College, which is where I got my first 3 undergrad degrees. And her, then Dr. Brian Taylor was my biology professor, and Dr. Antonio Alonso was my Spanish professor. And those 3 people all taught at Tulsa Community College. They all changed my fucking life. And now to this day, my dream job, if I ever get a chance to do anything that isn't content creation, in fact, I might do it on the side, my dream job is to teach at a community college and give kids like me, that I was, thinking that are too stupid to do what they want to do with their life, give them the opportunity to challenge themselves and to grow the way that I did and achieve my dreams the way that I have. That's what I want to do with my life now. And I think, Tony, you need to go find a teacher like that too.
Maybe I will. I don't know. I don't want to say how old I am. I've been in and out of college quite a bit, but
I dropped out 3 times.
Degree.
I dropped out of college studies 3 times.
Yeah. I've got 3 under my belt, so yeah, I could pick it up a 4th, I guess. But I don't want to take too much more time. One question, and you may be the wrong guy to ask about this, but it popped into my head while you were talking, and if you can answer it in like 3 or 4 words, just to tell me what to Google. Is there a way?
For what?
Have we figured out, scientifically speaking, what it is about adding electrons, protons, and neutrons to an atom that changes the properties of the material? Like, have we figured that out?
I think I know what you're asking, but I don't know if I'm going to answer it properly.
What is it about having X number of protons, neutrons, electrons that makes gold do what it does, but it makes carbon do what it does? You know what I mean? Because really, we're just talking about subatomic particles, you know?
So I'm not a chemist, but I'm going to answer this as best I can. And then I need you to go find a chemist, figure out why I'm wrong. Okay.
Well, I was going to say, if you can tell me what to Google, I can do the rest. But
yeah. So starting with what you already know, the number of protons is what determines the species of atom.
Right.
And what that's going to do is the number of protons is also going to get you to a point where you can then a stable atom has the exact same number of electrons as it has protons. Hold on a second. Didn't throw up. So the I thought I was gonna, but the number of protons is going to determine number of electrons possible. If it has too many or too few, it's going to be an ion. Now we're not talking about isotopes. We're not talking about neutrons. Fuck that shit. Neutrons are just there for stability, right? So don't worry about them right now. They do other stuff. We'll talk about it later, but right now, ignore the neutrons.
Okay.
And so what you're actually talking about, the properties of these things, like how they behave. The major thing that I would be able to talk about at my level of training and like what chemistry is useful for me is just valence electrons, which are the outermost shell. And those are going to appear in periods. That's why it's the periodic table. And also the reactivity, the way or the electronegativity, how they're willing to bond to other things. And what kind of bonds they're going to form, whether it's going to be an ionic bond, a covalent bond, or a metallic bond. Those all are to do with the electronegativity and the number of valence electrons. I'm missing something here because electronegativity is broken down into atomic radius and effective nuclear charge, which is why if you have a smaller atomic radius, you have less shielding and valence electrons closer to the nucleus, which increases the effective nuclear charge, which is going to increase electronegativity, which is why fluorine's so goddamn electronegative, whereas a transition metal is going to form a metallic bond, where instead of having such a hard bond, you're instead going to have a sea of electrons over the top, because there isn't really uniform sharing like you would have with a covalent bond or an ionic bond. And that's why you can have cold fusion of metals. If you were to remove an oxidized layer, then you're going to have metals that can just form, it can basically weld together and melt together because you have that kind of metallic bonding. So it's just, if you want to start Googling and get to the level where I'm at with my knowledge, which again, I'm not a chemist, but if you want to get to where I'm at with it and start thinking about it the way that I'm thinking about it, the way I was trained to think about it as a biologist, I would start there, start looking up electronegativity. The functions of electronegativity are going to be effective nuclear charge and atomic radius. Start there, and then also start looking at different bond types and where they appear in periods based on valence electrons across the periodic table. That's where I would start thinking about it. But again, that is outside of my pay grade a little bit.
Dude,
Yes.
Considering I threw that at you out of left field, I would put everything you just delivered on par with Patton Oswalt's rant on Park and Recreations, where he came up with like his theory of what like the new Star Wars movie was going to be. Now, I don't know if you've watched that. It was a great clip. He goes on for like 9 minutes and just runs out. He's like, I literally have no moisture left in my mouth. I need to stop. But no, that was for someone who's not a chemist, that was very impressive. So thank you, and John, thank you for your time, and to the folks in chat. I have been glancing at things. Thank you for your comments as well. I'll let you know if I find the meaning of life. You'll be my first call. Okay.
Most definitely. Thank you very much, Tony. I cannot wait for all the chemists to tell me all the things I missed. I'll see you later. I'm not joking about that. I can't wait for the chemist to be like, yo, here's some other stuff that you could have answered this question with. I want to know. Just don't tell me why I'm wrong, because I'm always correct, don't you know?
I mean, I would have had to Google it. I couldn't have done that like off the top.
Oh man, it's been a long time since I had to think about that shit. Let me tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk to our very last caller, who's been waiting for 2 fucking hours. And then we'll do super chats, and then we'll all go away. We've got Onyx, pronouns he and they, calling in from gigantic albatross, who wants to know if other primates exhibit gender, or do the social mannerisms we see qualify as something else. Onyx, you're on the line with Forrest and John. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing good.
Right on. So tell me specifically what the question is, because I've got what I see here on the call screen, but I'm betting there's more to it than that.
Yeah, so when I was researching for this project, there was a lot of like literature on like the social mannerisms of like chimps and bonobos, and like how we see them like fuck social roles. So we have instances of like female alphas and stuff like that. Does that qualify as gender? Is that them showing a kind of gender? Like, what is that? And how do we qualify that?
Cool.
And if it's different from human gender, how is it different?
Yeah. Welcome to the forefront of this discussion in bioanthropology and primatology. Great news. I don't fucking know. Because there's a lot there. If you ask in the strictest sense, we tend to say that, gender is strictly a human thing, but it's undeniable that there are gendered behaviors in other animals, and you can say those are sex-based behaviors, but like in other primates, especially the great apes, it's clearly a little bit more than that, in my opinion. I would encourage you to check out, I know there were some stuff about, there's a really famous primatologist called Frans de Waal, W-A-A-L. Here's a book on chimpanzee politics from him that I laying around from a long time ago. But he's a real famous primatologist, and if I remember correctly, he did some stuff a couple of years ago talking about like gender in chimps and stuff, and how like when we look at I'm gonna fuck this up, dude. When we look at like humans, babies, boys don't prefer blue or pink or anything like that. That is a totally cultural thing. But we do see like little like girls do tend to prefer dolls and things and practice maternal behaviors. And that's like a biological thing that seems to be, and so like is that like a biological aspect of gender, or is that something completely different, or like what is that? If a boy plays maternal things, is that necessarily a transgender or a gender experience, or is that just an outlier in that? Where does that gender marker lie? And what's really important to remember about all of that is that gender is historically associated, when we talk about it in humans, it is historically associated with socioeconomic status and power far, far more than it is associated with biological sex. And so
can you explain that?
Yeah. So like when we
what
talk about
when
we talk about gender and sexuality, because they're both the same in that way, it's more to do with like only males can, or only men in this society here can be landowners. And yet here we have this female landowner that now takes on the social role of a man because that's what she's going to do. And like, so like they have this socioeconomic aspect to what they're doing there, as opposed to literally just what's between your pants or how you identify. And it's the same thing with sexuality, where you see other cultures where it's not about what gender you're having sex with. It's about who is the fucker and who is the fuckee. That's the actual measure of what's going on. And it's about, are you in a situation where you are like where prostitution is like a social class as opposed to a profession, you know what I mean? So to speak. And so when we look at these things, I would encourage you to check out, there's a really good paper by, I want to say Sterling. No. Voss. VOSS, called Sexuality Studies in Archaeology. I think that's right. Let me check. Hold on a second. That I had to read a long time ago. Sexuality Studies and Archaeology by Voss. Yes. Published in 2008. And
I see it.
That one. Yeah. And that kind of goes over like a variety of sexual politics and like how these things were seen across the past. And it kind of goes into queer theory. It is, it's talking about sex and sexuality in the past. Ask your parents. But like at the end of the day, there's nothing pornographic in this. You know what I'm saying? But like that kind of goes over that, and it touches on gender a little bit because it touches on queer theory and looking at archaeology through a lens like that. There are other great materials for things like that. This one over here that I keep next to my desk: Male Daughters, Female Husbands, Gender and Sex in African Society. And it's kind of talking about like post-colonial ideas of what gender is and what gender roles are. And so like that just, and you can also pick up any introductory cultural anthropology book or anything like that and kind of learn a little bit more about these things. But the point is, the framework and heuristics that we use when we talk about this stuff is very, very, very modern. It is a very recent invention. And so we're trying to use human cultural heuristics to apply to other animals and to say, well, they're behaving in these ways, and that seems to be a distinction. So you have people like Frans de Waal, who, what I was saying earlier, if I remember correctly, he did some stuff where he was talking about like, you know, human girls tend to prefer dolls, and that's what we can associate with the gendered behavior. Well, non-human primates like chimpanzees, also the males tend to not play with the doll or rip the doll apart out of curiosity of what's inside the doll, whereas the chimpanzee females, the young ones, tend to play nursing and play baby with the doll. And so that seems to be a cross-species gendered behavior, but it's hard to say, is that a psychological phenomenon or is that a behavioral dimorphism type thing? You know what I mean? And so I would encourage you to just dig into that a little bit more and see, because I don't know off the top of my head, if that's a thing that we see that there's like too much of it that's ubiquitous. You can also kind of make the argument when you look at things like whiptail lizards, which are these awesome little lizards in the Southwest of America that are entirely female and entirely homosexual.
Yeah.
And so like, but they have to still copulate. They have to have sex. So in order to self-fertilize an egg, another female has to come act like a male. And then that triggers the hormone, whatever cascade that causes them to self-fertilize. So is that a gendered behavior? Is sexuality connected to gender in that way? Is gender even applicable here? Those are questions that you can be digging into, and I don't have good answers right now. That's what I would start playing with. And then also, while you're doing that, be very careful not to make assumptions based on your own cultural heuristic about what you're interpreting or what you're reading. Don't misinterpret the data based on, well, this is how girls behave or boys behave as far as I'm concerned. And I say that not only because it's a good model, but also because I actually just saw someone in the chat say, I'm female and I rip my dolls apart. Yeah. I didn't do any nurturing behavior. I'm a cisgender man. I skinned things when they got stuffed animals. I skinned them and wanted to take them apart and see what was inside of them as well. And so like, and here I have this person here who's saying the same thing. So like, yeah, that's what I would start with. And also call Erica. Ask Uptick Gibbon, because she's actually a primatologist and she might be able to give you some really specific examples about all these things.
I was going to, but I have my presentation in 2 days. So.
Oh. Well, fucking, I'll leave a comment under this video and I will text her and ask if she has time to respond to your comment.
Are you for real?
Yeah, she might not, but like, I'll ask her.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was just I don't know how this might factor into the conversation. A lot of this is kind of over my head. I'm not really into this side of this discussion, but I do know that there's one study that they did where they introduced money to a group of monkeys. I can't remember which type of monkeys, but they ended up developing prostitution. So that.
Oh, I've read that one.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
That's
Erica
my contribution to this conversation.
Yeah, our producer just said Erica is on next Monday, but you said your presentation is coming up in a couple of days, so that might not be enough time for you.
I want to go into this for college, so I probably will still ask the question.
Hell yeah! Check out also, if you haven't already, there is have you heard of Robert Sapolsky?
No, I've not.
He's a really famous primatologist and neurobiologist, and he's at Stanford University. He doesn't do I don't think he does any social media. I think he's pretty disconnected from it, but he is very famous, and so like you can find videos of him everywhere. If you go on Google or go on YouTube and look up human behavioral biology, there is a playlist from Stanford University. I think it's 10 or 12 lectures, and they're almost all from him. And it's like 10 years old now, so some of it's a little outdated. And you kind of got to, like, if you hear something crazy, check, like, Google it and see if there's been new development in that area. But it is a phenomenal series that I've listened to 1,000 times and learned so much from. And it's just this dude talking about behavioral biology in humans, but he does so much stuff talking about other animals, talking about behavior in general, talking about where behaviors come from and why, what we know about behavior and behavioral evolution. It is incredibly cool.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. I hope it was worth the fucking 2 hours you waited. I'm sorry to keep you on the line for so long.
It's fine.
It is the nature of things being an atheist calling these shows.
Yeah, I think I have to go to bed. So good night.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah. Please do leave a message, or please do leave a comment, and I will call Erica right after the show and ask her to respond to it. Okay.
I definitely will.
All right. Take care, Onyx.
See you, Onyx.
What a cool person.
Yeah.
So with that, the call section is done, and now all we've got left are super chats. Let's super them chats, y'all. Let's super them up.
Let's do it. I'm ready for it.
Get this over here, put this up there. We'll start with $5 from June Urich. It's been a hot minute since I heard a Hamsar reference in the wild. Stave it off, 1, 2, 3, and now you can count 2, 3. Hell yes. I'm going to grab something really quick. Check out what just came in the mail today. Literally today, I just got my fucking Trogdor shirt.
Oh,
hell yeah.
That's cool.
I rediscovered like some old Strong Bad emails, and I was kind of looking for inspiration on making some stuff, and I was like, you know what? When I was a kid, I always fucking wanted to like be able to support this kind of and get some school. So like, I was like, fuck it. I'm 32 now, and I finally have grown-up money. I'm going to buy a goddamn Trogdor shirt from the official website. That's the only thing they sell. It's great.
All right, let's see. Next is $5 from Roland, the Closet Goblin, saying, looking for a goblin sitter while Forrest is gone. I'm thinking Aaron. I like the way he feeds his snakes. Jimmy, come over and open the closet. And then a little evil smiley face.
Hell yeah. I love the commitment to the bit. $10 from Jamin Busak. Just remember that people sometimes laugh when they're uncomfortable, not to mock. It sounded like Adrian's cognitive dissonance was just too much for him today. Yeah, I wasn't going to hold that against him. He sounded like he was having a hard time, but like, I'm not into it when somebody says something and then immediately says the opposite thing and then tells me that I have the problem. You know what I mean? Like, that sucked.
Yeah. It seemed like gaslighting a little bit.
Calasia789 says you have no clue what that is. You're talking about Trogdor? You're saying you don't know what Trogdor is? Get an education. Get on the internet.
$5 from Firebird XX, who says, hi guys, how did the charity drive for FFRF go? I donated at least $50.
I have terrible news for you.
Money, right?
I have terrible news. We raised like $95,000 and not a bit of it was for FFRF. It was for RFR. So like we have deceived you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry. Yeah. It was for RFR. Right.
Galasia789, what you need to understand is that Trogdor was a man. He was a dragon man. He was actually just a dragon, but he was still Trogdor, and he burninates the countryside, and he burninates the peasants, and he burninates the people and their thatched roof cottages. That's what he is, and he's a mighty dragon, and you got to be fucking careful of him. $5 from and none of these references are landing. You understand a fucking word, but the audience is going ape tits. $5 from David S. Grignoli. David Scrignoli. Yesterday, Forrest misexplained p-values and said p-value is the probability of a certain value, is the probability of a certain or more extreme value. I don't remember. I was so fucking frustrated trying to explain the basic concept of like how to like test the thing. Well, I was trying to say, I don't know what the fuck I said, but like to a p-value of less than 0.05 means that there is less than a 5% chance that the thing that you have observed is random chance, is just natural probability, whatever. And that is a reason to believe that there is some significance, some actual thing happening here, that this did that. So it's not the probability of a certain value, it's the probability of a certain or more extreme value. Yeah, the probability that the thing is actually significant, that it is actually the thing you're testing means something, is the way that I would explain it. I'm not a statistician, and maybe this isn't good enough for David Scringoli as of this moment either. But that's the way that I would put it. It's just really difficult to explain that to an arrogant ass kid who's telling me that everybody in the science community is wrong because he's pretty sure Gen Z doesn't care about pronouns. You know what I mean? I don't know. I probably said a couple of things that were wrong in that area.
7 Canadian imaginary dollars from Snaky Boopface, who says, "Hello, Tommy. Forrest. Thank you for your vids. Sorry if this is a weird question, but are you neurodivergent? You don't have to answer, of course." Sounds like PII.
I don't know. I don't know what that means. Piss in intestines.
The PII is like private information.
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
I was thinking PHI is what I was thinking about.
Piss hard intestines. Are you pissing out the intestines? Oh no. I don't know. I've never been tested. I can tell you that on like more than one occasion, I have started started the sentence. So I don't know if I have ADHD, and someone has actually cut me off and said, "Yes, you fucking have ADHD," and then let me finish the sentence. So I don't know. A lot of people who know better than me seem to think that I am, but I've never been tested. So I'd like to be. That sounds really fun. I want to know stuff about me. I'm not going to fix it. I'm not going to do anything about it. My mind is a noisy concert hall at all times, and it has been for as long as I can remember, and I don't know how to be anything else besides all the fucking different sounds and thoughts going on all at once. I don't know how else to be than what I am. $10 from Zum. How do you differentiate between when something makes sense in the fact support this from makes sense in a fact support this sense, I'm guessing, from my intuition is leading me to think the facts are saying this? Checking. You differentiate that by checking.
Mm-hmm.
It's
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, like, if the facts support it, then there's a very direct line from fact, like the facts supporting it, whereas intuition seems to be some kind of interpretation of the facts rather. And so, like, maybe you can get it right with the intuition part, but to be absolutely sure, you would have to have that hard line, like, oh, this is the fact, and this other thing over here contradicts that fact, so there's no way that thing can be true, kind of deal.
I really appreciate the chat. One person said Forrest is ADHD, and the other person said Forrest doesn't have ADHD. ADHD has Forrest. You goddamn right. I'm using that.
$4.99 from Life is Literary. I need fanfic made of the beautiful warrior Forrest Valkyrie and his trusty sidekick Mike going on adventures and guided by the sage Jimmy of the Snow.
This is the next great novel. This is what it is. Somebody in the chat said that we should have all the hosts play D&D. That should be our next big fucking. If we do that, it would be a charity stream. We could have Jesse Jurdak DM it. I would. I've
never played D&D, so that would be a first time experience for me. Yeah.
Might I recommend Tales of the Valiant instead? It's the exact same fucking game mechanics wise, but they just have more options to do stuff, and it's more fun at lower levels. And I had a tremendous amount of fun playing it for the charity stream that we did for that, and it's really good. You should try it sometime if you like imaginative, collaborative storytelling and fantasy bullshit. You'll enjoy it. $4.99 from Life is Literary. Forrest Valkyrie took the blade and gifted it upon his flowing and lifted it above his flowing golden hair. Mike looked on in awe. That's the legendary blade, Occam's razor. Amazing.
$5 from Johannes Brahms, saying you're doing a great job, Mike and Steve. Love you guys. Go fuck yourself, Tim.
Oh man, $5 from Jamnick06. I donated over $3. 3,000. Why did it take me so long to figure out what that K meant? I donated over $3,000 to RFR, so I don't have much money left for super chats. Still, with my last $5, and before I run out of characters, I wanted to ask. Perfect.
Nice.
Thank you very much for all your support.
$5 from June Urick. I'm just shocked that someone Forrest told to call in actually called in. Yeah, that's actually a rare thing. Like I don't know if I've ever been. Yeah, I don't think I've ever been in a show where somebody's been talking shit in the chat and then they directly called in on that show.
Yeah. Kudos to that dude for actually putting his money where his mouth is and saying things to directly to us. That's great. Just maybe, don't get to the position where you have to do that next time. Like, I don't know. $4.99 from Garcia Buckner. Can somebody edit a pic of Forrest to be the Joker with a caption that reads, "All it takes is one bad day"? That's great.
No, I can see it now. You could get AI to do you in like Joker makeup, and the quote is, "I had a bad day."
That's very funny. If we ever do a fucking if we ever do like a Halloween stream, I should absolutely do a fucking Joker makeup thing, and that would be great.
$4.99 from Life is Literary. Forrest Valkai gathered his magic and took on the form of the mighty will of the the hunty. David trembled in fright. I've never faced a meaner foe. And Billy was seen running off into the woods.
Because someone silenced him, and that's fascism.
Yeah.
$5 from that was the funniest fucking call. The fact that he's gonna get on this fucking high horse of you guys are fascists. I don't know what fascism is. You bitch. That killed me. I can't get over that. It was so fucking fun. $5 from the Cursed Chaos Brents. I've been reading the anthology Queering Anarchism, and so far I'd say it's a good read. I'll check it out. Queering Anarchism. I don't know what that is specifically. I've never. Goddamn. Speaking of people who never call the fuck in, JP in the comments right now who just had to get muted a fucking again. Every goddamn show I'm on, we start the show at 6 p.m. We run the show for a couple of hours. By 8:30, we've closed the lines. And now at 9 o'clock, JP's here to proselytize his dumbass shit about fucking eclipses and shit and how science can't explain this, and gets muted again in the chat because the mods aren't going to put up with it. Every fucking show, you turn up wait until well after we are done taking calls, say some dumb shit in the chat, and get muted and probably banned for another day by the moderators. It isn't actually the definition of insanity, but there's that old line that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. What result did you expect today, JP? What did you plan to have happen? Did you think that this would be the time that we would all halt the show and address whatever fucking dumbass thing you said in the chat, and we would all concede defeat to the whatever the fucking... What was the plan today? You had hours to call in. You didn't do it again. You put the same dumb shit in the chat again. You got muted again by the mods who have the same rules that they've had every fucking time you've ever done this. What was the plan today? There's a number on the bottom of the screen. If you ever grow a fucking spine, call it. That's the whole gambit. And this is actually, you can't call me anytime soon because, by the way, fun fact, this is my last show for a month, y'all. I won't be back. John and I are doing this, and then I'm gone until the middle of June. So it's going to be a sad time for me, not getting to do the line. $4.99 from Life is Literary. What's that?
I was just saying, I feel special. I'm your last show for a month.
Oh yeah. So Melanie says, "Fuck it, open a line and see if he calls in." Dude, I'd do it. I don't have control over that, but I would do it. $4.99 from Life is Literary. Draw your last pathetic argument card. My deck has no pathetic argument cards, Billy, but what it does contain is the unstoppable mute button. No, my fascism. Blah, blah. It's fucking great.
$5 from Eric Mishima. Fusing of chromosome 2. Is it known whose or which chromosomes fused? Is that a nonsense question? Thanks.
No, it's not a nonsense question, and it is known. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I do believe. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to look it up. Which chromosomes fused into 2? First time estimation of ancestral human chromosome, because I know I saw something about this recently, and I don't fucking remember what it is. I don't remember, but I'm gonna look it up and try to find out if I can find the answer for you. Because we were asking about this fusion, and there was something about it on Google Scholar. I don't remember.
Well, I think as far as like which chromosomes fuse, I think it's in other great apes, it's chromosomes 2 and 3 that fused into 1. I think.
I don't know.
It's
real big. It's real big, so it would probably be farther down the line. Because it's real big now, but it's not like insanely big. It's not any bigger than 1. It's like, what's going on with that? You know. Man, I can talk a lot about what a Robertsonian translocation is and how they work and where they come from and when we see them and all sorts of things, but I don't fucking know.
So,
this is a good question. I don't fucking remember.
So as far as which chromosomes fused, at least over on Google, it's coming up with in apes, 2 specific ancestral chromosomes fused to form human chromosome 2, specifically chromosomes 2A and 2B in chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans are thought to have fused to create the human chromosome 2.
Right, but labeling them 2A and 2B is like just after the fact, saying like these are the 2 parts of the new what will be chromosome 2. But like we're wondering, like, was it chromosome 15 and 17 that did it? You know what I mean? And then they're now relabeled. CRISPR-Cas9 in the chat, amazing name, says it's 13 and 12.
Oh, okay, 13 and 12. Yeah, CRISPR would know in the chat there that they're. I believe CRISPR's a geneticist.
Oh, that's great. I think what a name for a geneticist. Yeah, I don't fucking remember. But I would believe it because I don't know. Yeah, according to this person who I've never met before, it's 12 and 13, and that's as good of a source as any. I'll keep looking and seeing what. Here, I've got another thing. here's this is the origin of human chromosome 2 from Nature Genetics in 1992. And I can't read this paper because I don't have access to it. But I see here in the it's a source. So let's see here. If I go in here and I look up the number 12 and just maybe, nope. I see here they reference something, represent a diagrammatic representation of the origin of human chromosome 2 following fusion of chimpanzee chromosomes 12p and 12 and 13p. And that is one of their references on this thing. So yeah, that looks like just the laziest, fastest double checking that I've ever done in my entire life says that's probably true, but I'll have to actually do some really serious thinking about it to be sure. But it sounds like that's what's going on. And this person says so, and you say you trust this person. So like, yeah. $9.99 from Craig Bradford. I owe you a cent for muting Billy. Promise $10. Nice. We'll hold you to that. Send your pennies to P.O. Box 1810, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, 74013.
SGD5, I'm not sure what kind of monetary thing that is. From Max V says, Billy is just hurt because this is exactly how most of the world reacts to him. They don't want to engage with such an obnoxious, petulant man-child. Damn, that sounds like fascism. Because you're shutting him down.
Thanks for the 5 suck good dicks. That is exactly the problem, is that Billy does not understand that people can just not want to interact with him, and that's okay. 5 Liberian Libras. It's pounds, but I don't care. From Mystic Minds Analysis Tavern. Consider this. Is a story any less amazing if it's purely fictional? Is a flower garden not beautiful enough without fairies inside? Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
$5 from Stomp. 10. Can you give 4 or 5 very simple facts that can demonstrate that the Earth is billions of years old in a way a 5th grader can understand?
Okay. I would say, in a way that a 5th grader can understand. Okay. It is logical to say that stuff piles up, that new dirt doesn't get shoved under old dirt. Stuff piles up as it goes. And when we look deep through the earth, we see lots of piled up dirt, lots of layers of different dirt with different properties and different characteristics that could not have existed all at once. And so it makes sense that they piled up. Long period of time, different types of dirt, different ages of the earth piling up. There's one fact that kind of falls in that way. Another one, that the earth is billions of years old, is that we look at the rate at which plants and animals change. And when we're trying real hard to change them, we know how many years it takes. And it's going to take a lot longer when you don't have us trying real hard to change them. And when we look deep in the earth, we see all sorts of different creatures, all sorts of different plants, animals, fungi, stuff from a long time ago. Again, it all piles up, one layer after the other. And so it makes sense to say that for these animals to change the way that they're changing, it must take a real long time. And it must take a real long time for them to get into those layers as well. That's number 2. Number 3 is that we know when we look around in space, we know that it takes a real long time for planets to form in the first place. And oh no, that's just true. I'm trying to put it in 5th grader terms. Lava So scratch that last one. Lava is real young dirt. It's real new earth being deposited, and it looks different than the old earth around it. Whenever earth is old, it gets all weathered down and dusty and stuff, and lava is like real dark and smooth and stuff. And so, like, for example, if you look at the moon, you see the dark swaths on the moon, those are lava flows, and the lighter parts are like dusty old parts. So the dark parts of the moon are the youngest parts of the moon. And when we look at the earth, we can see, like, looking back throughout across the planet, if this place were super young, it wouldn't look as dusty as it does, and it wouldn't have the same the earth around us wouldn't have the same properties that it does. It would look a lot more like lava. It would look a lot more smooth and dark and stuff like that. Not a geologist. I'm doing my best. That's 3. John, do you have any? Because I'm doing my best for 5th grade here.
Yeah. So I think it's the trying to explain it for a 5th grader is the hard part here, because it's some of this is complicated. So the way that I would explain it is like, how old are 5th graders? Like 10? You know how you're 10 years old. So you've been alive for 10 years. Well, we have some crystals out there called zircon crystals, and we can run specific tests on them to know how old they are. And we have found zircon crystals that are 4.5 billion years old. And so the Earth has to at least be that old in order for those zircon crystals, or at least those zircon crystals formed that long ago. So the fact that we found them in the ground, combined with your previous one of your previous facts, seems to suggest that the Earth has at least been around in some kind of form for 4.5 billion years.
See, I didn't want to talk about any kind of radiometric data or anything, because I was like, well, I can't explain that to you. But you I think you did it perfect. Just like there are some tests we can run. That's good enough for kids that age. The last one would be that we know what causes earthquakes is like these big plates, these big chunks of the earth moving around. And we know how fast they do that. We can actually measure how fast they're going. And it's not fast. It grows about the rate of your fingernails grow. And yet we see on different continents like Africa and South America, we see overlaps of fossils of types of animals from way back in the day that lived in both these places at once. And that doesn't make any sense unless those continents were touching and they were able to just walk across, which means those continents had to move apart at the same rate that your fingernails grow. And that would have taken a long time to get to where we are now, millions and billions of years, not a very fast process. So that would be the last one that I would give. So there you go. 5 ways to tell a child of 5th grade that the earth is millions and billions of years old. Hope it helps.
Is it my turn to read?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did 4 out of 5 of the last one, so you take this one.
Yeah, right. $5 from June Urick. My dad is a math teacher, and he would love to hear you talking about your journey in learning the language of mathematics, Forrest.
Play him the clip. There's not much more I can say about it. Yeah, but I want to inspire people to be more excited about teaching and learning. So that's great. $5 from Woolite Mammoth. That's where I got my first 3 undergrad degrees. Forrest, this guy was only his first 3 degrees. Yeah. Well, you got to start somewhere.
$10 from Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Damn, Daniel.
Thank you very much. $5 from Blind and Limey. Cancer. Literally the only biomedical subject I might be able to actually Forrest on. The fuck you can. You probably can. But
$5 from
gave him a phone.
$5 from Bike R Nurse Ratchet. I can only do math because of the amazing Lou Ferroni of College of Mary in Omaha. Shout out to you, Lou.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
We all got that one teacher, dude. If you are not good at math and science, it's not because you're dumb, it's because your teachers have sucked. $5 from Tristan Alian. Tristan, Forrest, you described my struggle with math. It's why I gave up on being a theoretical physicist. I need to find a video of the same lesson you got. Check out Professor Leonard, everybody. Professor Leonard is on YouTube. Dude has amazingly comprehensible mathematics lesson. You'll find he's got glasses and biceps as thick as my entire body. Dude's jacked as all hell and knows the fuck out of some math, and he's great. So check out Professor Leonard. I love his videos. They got me through calculus. They've helped my wife tremendously as well. They're really, really, really good. And I'm pretty sure he has introductory mathematics videos as well.
$5 from the Fuzzy Logic. Always a blast staying up late with Forrest and Mike. Also, have a great trip, Forrest. Don't forget to switch off your phone at the border. Oh, yeah, that's important.
Have you heard about when that? Seth and I came back? Yeah, when Seth and I came back from Canada, we made sure we had passcode locks because, like, the pattern locks I don't think are protected, but number passcodes are. And so, like, you have to be careful about how exactly you do. If I remember correctly, that's what it is.
Did your phone get cavity searched?
Not this time, surprisingly. The past couple of times I've traveled, though, yes, they've swabbed it and stuff. Here it is, Professor Leonard. I'm putting him right there. Dude is a fucking rock star. He's got almost 1 million subs, and he deserves every one of them. Dude's killing it. And you can go to his playlists. Here he's got pre-calculus, differential equations, Calc 3, Calc 2, Calc 1, a bunch more Calc 1, stats, intermediate algebra, pre-algebra. Like, he's got everything up in here. So fucking follow this dude and learn some things.
Yeah, I don't mean to flex too hard, but I remember in college I had to tutor my entire differential equations class.
Nice. $20 from Mr. Briqua10. What a show. Things started off on a bizarre note where we had a host with a bad tone when holding Adrian to task. Got even more bizarre when the tone police came knocking. Managed to end on 2 great calls, though. Not bad. Damn right.
Yeah. $10 from Steve Lancaster. Says a woman is allowed to be on a music video dancing around in their underwear with construction equipment, but when I try to do it, I get kicked out of Home Depot. Why?
Right? There was a magician in the town that I grew up in here in Tulsa called Steve Lancaster. So immediately I heard that name and I was like, whoa, because I used to he owned a store called Top Hat Magic, and I would go there every fucking week and buy magic tricks and costume shit. And like, it's also, again, I was always this way. I hope it's that guy. I hope that's Steve Lancaster, who now lives in Australia doing sick-ass magic trick for koalas. 5 e-bucks from Microslava Rovnakova. Science-backed human innate propensity for supernatural eternity. And Ecclesiastes 3:11, for God put longing for eternity in our hearts. Valid argument for Christianity. That's a lot. Okay, so science-backed human innate propensity for supernatural / eternity. No, that's not an argument for God. That's just human wonder. And a Bible verse, absolutely not. You're talking about, those are humans who wrote the Bible, so they would write about a cultural experience like that. So no.
Well, and I would say that if there is a human innate propensity for the supernatural and eternity, then that would be the basis for the second part. So it's kind of like it's almost kind of like you're anding one with one here, and you're getting one. You're not effectively accomplishing anything with the argument, I don't think.
Yeah.
$4.99 from Ruth, who says, why are Republicans so hateful towards LGBTQ+? Is it because they are afraid of being exposed, or because it hurts their religious control, or both?
It's in my opinion, it's just scapegoating. You take a minority population, you can slap a conspiracy theory on them that they're all rapists and pedophiles and blah, blah, blah. And now you can blame all your societal problems on them. And anytime anybody brings up real problems, why is their fucking food so expensive? Why is rent so expensive? Why can't I afford to get the doctor? Why is medicine so expensive? Well, drag shows for children. And you just get them whipped up into a moral frenzy about some other fucking thing that doesn't matter. And you can control your population a lot more easily. Just scapegoating. That's what I would say. 10 lucky dollars from Herbie Shine. Robert Sapolsky does a podcast called Something Like Father and Offspring. Upsides come out on Thursday. Always really interesting. Jesse Jurdak on the line shows more. Please tell Jimmy Snow that while I'm gone for a month to have Jesse Jurdak take over all my spots. That's what we need.
10 Canadian Narnia dollars from Bafaboo. At my junior high, each graduating student got to paint a brick on the wall for a few bucks. I painted Trogdor the Burninator. That's
Hell
awesome.
Yes. Love that. Thatcher's Cottages. $4.99 from Juju Penguins. Forrest, hope you have an awesome sauce trip. Please bring back more feet as souvenirs, as long as they're not spider feet. You guys want to see a foot? Check it out. A friend of mine had a rhea. Rheas are ratites, like ostriches and emus and cassowaries. They're from South America. They're small little things. They're dumb as all shit. And this rhea died, and so my friend chopped its foot off and mummified it in some salt and borax for a while until it was totally dehydrated and gave it to me as a gift. How great is that?
Interesting.
Rhea foot, y'all. It's like a wand. I cast erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, that looks like something that a creationist would pick up and be like, well, if dinosaurs lived millions of years ago, how is this foot here?
Yeah. Morgan says you don't want to get that stuck up your ass. Don't tell me what I don't want. 5 pounds from the Fuzzy Logic. Hang on. If Billy thought Forrest was a fascist and Billy was against that, does that mean he's Antifa? Dun, dun, dun. Hell yeah.
$20 from Melanie saying, enjoy the trip, Forrest. Don't forget to pack a MAGA hat so you can get back into the country.
I am painfully aware that if they do a social media search on me, I am going to El Salvador. So like, I've got to figure out what I'm doing next. $5 from Draven Dresden. So if I bad Photoshop Forrest to look like the Joker, how would I show him before he's gone for a month? You can tag me, post it on a thing and tag me. Or you can send it to hello@valkailabs.com, and that's a fan mail account that things get dumped into sometimes, and I'll check it someday. But no promises.
$9.99 from Daniel, who says, I had to replace my vegetable CRISPR-Cas9 of my carrots got slimy. Oh, nice. I think like
I had to replace I had to replace my vegetable CRISPR. Cas9 of my carrots got slimy. Nice.
Because I got you.
Nice.
I got you now.
$5 from June Urich. I could never figure out coprolites. That shit's hard. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That's really good.
$5 from Jamnick06. I got to meet Jamnick at Free Flow, so that was awesome.
Oh yeah, I think I did too. Yeah.
Yay, I found another $5 in my couch. Okay, let me get this really important question out here before I run out of space. What is the difference between...
How did you get the dollars into your phone? That's the question. And finally, $5 from Johannes Brahms to answer Riff. In my experience, whenever malice and stupidity each serve as adequate explanations for bad behavior. The actual cause is always both. Yeah, I can dig that. I can dig that. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, non-binary pals, that's our show. That's it. It's been a wild one. John, do you have anything before we proceed to fuck off?
I hope everybody has an awesome week. I'm really busy at work, so like I'm gonna be like totally swamped for this entire week. But I hope everybody has an awesome week, and definitely check out the videos on my channel, Godless Engineer.
And instead of that, go check out the videos on my channel, where I will be releasing a new Reacteria very soon, and then some more later on too when I get back. Really quickly, thank you to our call screener, who I believe was Stephanie Helms tonight. Thank you to Morgan, our producer. Thank you to John for co-hosting with me. Thank you to Faye Halo for doing the timestamps. Thank you to our mods in chat. Thank you to the chatters, even the ones that suck. Thank you to our callers, even the ones that suck. Thank you for watching. Have an awesome rest of your day, and never stop learning. Bye-bye.